Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Design Review Board. Our fourth member has made it. So I would like to call the meeting to order and ask that you join me with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We always start off with an introduction of our board members and our staff, so we're going to start off at the very end. Cody
Hendricks, Planning Tech.
Angela Rambo, Principal Planner.
I'm Bob Buscemi, the City Architect.
Reed Casey, Bethany Road.
Tim Bryan, I have a business here in Crabapple.
Marty Littleton, Freemanville Road.
Benny Palmer, Canterbury on the Lakes, and I apologize profusely. Had a sitter and a 2-year-old. I'm just going to leave it at that.
We need to all pay her for showing up because we wouldn't have had a meeting.
I apologize.
I'd like to get someone to make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, may I get an approval for the September meeting minutes?
I'll approve this.
Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. Get a motion for the approval of the September meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to
All
approve.
right.
And I'll
Second.
second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're going to start off with demos. I wish we could do all the demos at one time, but we're going to have to go through them one at a time. First one is going to be 15905 Freemanville Road. Anybody home that wants?
This was a house we thought was historic from last month.
Oh,
Yeah. This
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, Mr. Chair, just for a refresher, this is the one that we saw last month, and we determined that it was on the Georgia survey.
Mm-hmm.
And we've met and spoken with him a couple times. So he's gone back to his bank, and he's trying to, I guess, work out more money so that he can do something with the structure.
Okay.
So we would like to defer it until next month.
Yeah,
Motion to defer.
yeah, one. So you gonna do it?
You can go ahead and do it.
I'll make a motion to defer then the Freemanville Road demo, 15905 Freemanville Road.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, we've got the Milan Group at 1530 Dinsmore Road, request to demo the residential and the outbuilding.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'm Scott Reese with Brumlow Reese & Associates, doing business at 13685 Highway 9, Milton, Georgia 30004. I'm here tonight representing the Milan Group in their application to demolish the existing mobile home and the associated outbuilding at the above address. We have located the specimen trees, provided you a site plan showing all the parameters. There is nothing historical or redeeming about the existing mobile home that has been remodeled. So,
Are you absolutely sure?
99.9.9.
And the plans for future use?
Yes. We're looking at putting a new residence on the lot.
All right. Any questions? Bob, Angela, Cody?
I have gone over with the client, of course, that in the process of demolishing the structure, that he will clean and degrub the property, seed it with the appropriate seeds for the time of year, and try to make the property appealing until he does something else with it.
And you already made the statement about the septic tank.
I have instructed him that the septic tank must be crushed, filled with gravel by a licensed sanitarian in the state of Georgia.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'll make a motion to approve the demo for 15370 Freemanville Road.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Scott, have a good day.
Well, since
Got the
I'm
next
still
one.
standing here,
You're coming back?
Yep, same.
Well, I'm still on, I'm number 3, and then I'll be back later too, so. Can I go ahead
Yeah.
with 15370 Freemanville Road?
Yep.
Once again, representing the same client, I am Scott Reese with Bromwell Reese and Associates, doing business at 13685 Highway 9, Milton, Georgia 30004. This is the adjoining lot. Once again, we have a remnant of an earlier time, a remodeled mobile home with an associated outbuilding. We have located the specimen trees, done a site plan showing the associated concerns with the property. Have discussed with the client the need to crush the septic tank, fill it with gravel by a licensed sanitarian in the state of Georgia. Gone over to him how to address and clean up the property after demolishing the structure. Any questions, I will be
I
glad
think
to.
there's wells on both of these too.
There is one well that was shared. This was a family compound. There's one well. It is shared by all three, or was by all three structures. The original single-family residence that was there, we demolished a couple of years ago. So whether they use the well in the future for irrigation or close it up is yet to be determined. It will not pass. I'm pretty sure it's a hand-dug well. I doubt if it would pass the health department standards for clean water.
So it's just a pipe well, it's not a,
It is a hand-dug well
okay.
from the last century, or well, 2 centuries ago. The 19th century.
They will secure it.
Just,
It is yet to be determined.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, I think.
I read the wrong-
Reed's last
I read C.
motion was for this project, not the Dinsmore. So just officially, I would like him to just acknowledge that both of them are being approved.
Yes.
Because I think he mentioned the Freemanville address on his motion rather than Dinsmore.
Yes, let's get them both
We
correct.
get them both.
please.
So just, we're acknowledging both of them are being approved, okay? Just in case.
Yes.
So we need to make a new motion to approve 1530 Dinsmore.
Yes.
So I'll make a motion to approve 1530 Dinsmore Road.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good to go.
Then we have the next one. Do we need to redo this?
Now you need to do
5:30. So
5:30.
I'll make a motion to approve 15370 Freemanville Road's demolition.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye. Sorry about that.
Thank you so much for your time.
Next one is going to be Crabapple Corners demo, which is 875 Mayfield Road.
Good evening, I'm Brian Sutton. I am the Senior Vice President of Construction for Stonewall Companies. I represent Alpha Partners, LLC. We were looking at demoing this residence at 875 Mayfield Drive in order to put in a mixed-use development.
I have a couple questions.
Yes, sir.
Question one, this is listed, right, on our historic site?
It is.
Okay. So has there been conversation about how to incorporate parts of this structure into the new structure?
The only discussion stemmed around potentially reusing the existing stone,
Okay.
taking it out and reusing it. But officially, that would have to be discussed and.
So how do
directed.
you really get around if you've got the structure? I mean, I realize that this house doesn't have a whole lot of redeemable things other than the fact that it's old. But how do we deal with the foundational ideas that we have to preserve historic structures, and how do we get around that particular argument as it relates to this structure?
So the way the ordinance is written is there's a lot of leeway. We amended the ordinance to add the survey as one more tool that you can use to decide whether or not the structure has historic value. It's not the end all. It's one more consideration that you can use. So as best of our ability, we try to incorporate the existing structure into the new structure, especially if it's gotten to the point where it's not feasible to remodel or reuse the existing structure. But just because it's on
The survey.
the survey doesn't mean it can never be demolished.
So which begs the question for me is that, do we have a plan for what the buildings, other than just a site plan?
No.
This one?
The entire structure is a stone face.
I'm thinking about the new structure, not this one.
We're gonna take the stone off the old building, and then we're gonna incorporate it depending on how much stone obviously we get out of it. Where we're gonna incorporate it, whether it's a water line or an entrance way to that site development or something like that. We're gonna incorporate every piece of stone we take off the building.
I mean, that's good enough.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Any questions?
No, I'm kind of like you. I would have liked to see what the stone was the future use, even if it was just a rendering, just see how it was gonna be incorporated, but.
So we can make this approval, subject to the saving of the stone and a final approval with the incorporation of that stone into whatever the next project's going to be since it's not here.
Into the
Can we do
next
that?
design, yes.
Okay.
And the building will come back before you.
Right.
Definitely.
So what I really implore for you is to make sure that nothing happens to our stone, that somebody doesn't decide to drive off with it.
Absolutely.
So
It doesn't end up in a dumpster and hauled off.
It will not.
Okay.
because you know and I know that people will haul it off. Okay.
The other thing is, Mr. Chair, would you want him to also in the motion document this better from a photographic imagery standpoint so that when you're looking at how it's reincorporated, you can study better pictures than with all of these bushes and things in front? And just to give the board a better cue, maybe he could take the bushes down, document it, and then this way when he brings it back, at least you can
Right.
see some better, clearer pictures of the architectural detail and
Right.
helps us out. It's just a photograph.
So you understand what the
Documentation.
architect's asking for?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So what we would do is make our motion to approve subject to the saving of the rock that's on the face of the building and to take dimensional photos of all four sides of the building so that we will have this to look at a future point when it comes time for us to approve
Absolutely.
the new building.
Yes,
That's
sir.
a mouthful. So,
Yes, sir.
so I'm gonna make a motion. My motion to approve the demo.
Is there any time for public comment?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Come on, you got some public comment? Thank you
Scott
for
Reese.
reminding me.
Brumlow Reese and Associates, doing business 13685 Highway 9, Milton, Georgia. Not very often I'm on this side of the
Equation.
equation. But as a multi-generational citizen of the city of Milton and very deep family ties, I would like that some design criteria be placed on the new structures that perhaps, like in the case at the Seven Gables house, that when it was rebuilt, it had to resemble very closely the
Original house.
the original house. So I understand it may not be that there may be obsolescence built into the existing rooms in the structure, but I really hate to see these rock houses were a distinct architectural design for this part of the state. There were about 7 or 8 that the Broadwell and Rucker family built, hauled in the stone from Hart County and Elbert County. And I really hate to see them go, but I do understand if it has structural obsolescence that you can't deny them the use of their property. But I would like to see some design criteria where the future buildings that someone could ride by and say, wow, that at least the facade approximates what was there.
Right. One of the things that we had that it had crossed my mind that actually, of course, over the course of a month, I talked to Bob. And so one of the things that we had talked about was that when they do come up with their design concept, that we wanted to incorporate portions of the house into the design of the new building. Hence the reason why at this point we're asking to save the rock.
Well, not just the building material, but the style.
Right.
I would like, if possible, for you to consider adding that into your the approval of the demolition. Thank you so much for your time.
Okay.
Maybe more stone in the new building just somewhere on the new building.
We have two new buildings coming up. We have a one-story restaurant on the corner, and they're proposing a three-story next to it. So you could put it in the motion that one of the facades, maybe the restaurant facade or one of those facades, have to have these elements. I think we could probably work that out with them.
Okay. Well, frankly, I agree with Scott. So, I'm trying to recognize the fact that the people have the right to the best use of the property and what it is, but and the functional obsolescence of the building. So I would change my motion to. Do we have any other comments by anybody else in the group? Okay. Any more comments up here? Okay. I'd like to make a motion to approve 875 Mayfield Road demolition, subject to the retaining of all of the rock that's on the existing building. B, taking all of the plants around the building down, taking measurements and pictures of the building. C, that this demolition is subject to, we can't make it subject to the approval of the future plan, but we can make it subject to that you agree to incorporate style and rock work into the new structure. One of the new structures can be put back onto the property.
Absolutely.
And I would say we would leave that to the city architect to help us come up with that plan.
We'll have to have approval at some point, right?
Right. Scott, does that sound good to you?
Yes, it does.
Okay. All right. You got it there, Angela?
Good for me.
Yes.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good to go. Thank you. Thank you, Scott. $4855 Windward Parkway.
Just before you leave, just the applicant.
Can you fill it out for me?
I just want to make sure everybody knows that we're giving the approvals for the demo, but they still have to go out and secure a demo permit,
Right.
a physical demo permit. So just want to make sure that he's aware of that.
My name is Eric Atkinson. I am the owner of Dash Development Team, and we are proposing to demo the house that is on 4855 Windward Parkway. It's a house that was built in 1980. Thank goodness, I don't think it has any historic value at all. It's been abandoned for a while. Before it was used as a dance studio, but it's been abandoned for about a year and a half. And we will be putting a two-story professional building there. I'm a dentist, and I'll be taking a portion of that building for a dental office. And then we'll be renting out the rest of the building.
Figure out where that is.
I don't see any wonderful things about the building.
No.
Is that a steel shipping container?
Yes, there are 3 shipping containers in the back of the property as well. And we have talked to the demolition company. They are going to dispose of those as well.
Okay. Do we have any questions from the public? Any questions, Bob?
Just a time frame, because I haven't seen anything come in yet for it. So
Yeah, so about a year ago, we were working with the city of Milton on a plan.
Yes. There was more retail.
Right. And so that kind of got put on hold for a minute.
Okay.
We've been having some issues with squatters and other things going on, people breaking into the house, and it's become a liability, so we just want to get rid of the house.
Okay.
I move to approve the demo of 4855 Windward Parkway.
And I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Have a good day, sir. Thank you. Next one is Little River Estates demo. It's going to be Taylor Road across from the Belmont subdivision.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'm Scott Reese with Brumlow Reese and Associates doing business at 13685 Highway 9, Milton, Georgia 30004. I'm here tonight representing the Ivy family in their application to demolish the existing residence and the poultry houses and associated outbuildings at the above described property. As you may or may not be aware, they're proposing a single-family residential subdivision on the property. It was approved by the Planning Commission, I think, last month. And in order to proceed with the land disturbance permit, we need approval to remove the existing structures. So, at one time, the Little River Farms was a dairy and a egg-laying operation, and there were about 10 poultry houses. 2 are remaining. They're in very bad shape, but we need to take those down. And then, I don't know, in the late 50s, early 60s, when the dairy and the egg operation were in full bloom, they constructed a small caretaker's cottage. It's got plywood siding. There's no historical significance or cultural significance with the structure. Once again, we have provided a site plan showing pertinent data, the specimen trees, and everything that would be required. After this, the demolition itself will occur during the LDP process, the land disturbance for the subdivision. So the repair and return to the original look will be in conjunction with the construction of the residential subdivision. So it'll be a little different than a typical take the house down and grass it back. It'll all be incorporated in the LDP of the subdivision. So that being said, entertain any questions. Thank you.
So how long after it starts the demo does it go directly into construction?
Well, it will be during the construction of the
Right.
roads and the infrastructure, detention pond, storm piping. So it'll
Okay.
be involved in that.
All right.
Now, as far as how long it's going to take for the city to give me a land disturbance permit and the construction of the new subdivision, that I'm hoping that within a 12-month period, we will have the streets in and a final plat approved for new construction. But maybe I'm the eternal optimist.
You might be. Any public comment?
Yes, yeah.
Bob, Angela, Cody?
No, I think you did a really nice job on the subdivision, and most of those lots are even over an acre, so if you want to embellish on that, it's a nicely done subdivision. You did a great job on it.
It's way less than max yield. But the family, certain members of the family intend to build there. So we're pretty proud of, it's not often that I get a developer in that is not looking for max yield, but in this case, they were looking for quality over quantity. So it's average almost 2 acres for the lots. So,
It really came out nice. It's a nice subdivision, and the planning commission wholeheartedly approved it.
yes, 7-0.
Okay.
Thank you, Scott.
I'd like to make a motion to approve Little River Estates, Taylor Road across.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mountain Road. Next, we have Mountain Road. You're going to tear down the chicken house. I know that chicken house. You know the one that there is? Anybody here for the chicken house? If nobody's here, why don't we make a motion to defer? I make a motion to defer it.
And I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next, we're going to courtesy reviews, and our first one up is the Public Safety Complex at 13690 Highway 9.
We have a couple of boards we'd like to get out, so it'll just take a moment.
Looks good.
Let's grab up on market. This one,
It's a big packet.
this one at the back.
No, it's the first one. Your fingers on it, yeah.
That will show up on the cameras and on the computers.
Okay, all right.
6A. Oh,
Which one is it?
okay. 6A.
Okay.
Oh,
We have a
Mr. Chair?
conflict.
It's Mountain Road.
Looking for Mountain Road.
Traffic coming in from Midtown, ridiculous.
Okay, you can-
Hey, the guys with the Public Safety Complex, can y'all allow us to take the one we just made a motion to defer, and I'll make a motion to undefer?
They're setting up anyways.
Okay. All right, sir. Have you filled out the little yellow card?
He literally just walked in.
Okay. Before you leave, you got to fill out a yellow card. You can present before.
Okay, you can go to the
You have
lectern
to go up to
for
the
us.
lectern and you can present, you can just pull back and show the.
Is there anything to demo?
Hello, sorry.
Yeah.
We're listening to
Name
the
and address
Mountain
for me?
Road demo.
Yes,
State your name,
Mark Chaoy, Chaoy.
your address.
Residence?
Mhm.
My residence is 20 10th Street, Unit 2402, Atlanta, 30309.
Okay. Are you going to redevelop this property?
No,
Okay. You're just tearing it down and going to, it's already fallen down, but,
I bought the property in 2006 just for investment.
okay.
I've been out in Alpharetta since 1989. That's when I bought my first house, and I sold it in 2008.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions about the chicken house?
Can the ladder stay?
Right, I was about to say.
Did you see the picture?
Oh, yeah.
There's nothing left but the ladder.
Didn't see that.
Just kidding.
That's a really good
Nothing on the
ladder.
Picture but the ladder.
You know, that was last winter.
That was last winter?
Snow on the roof. It was an old chicken. I actually grew chickens for Tyson when I bought the property. As in business.
Well, I do not see any redeeming quality of your said chicken house. So with no seeming, no redeeming qualities of your chicken house and no redemption for it, I make a motion to approve the demolition of Mountain Road Chicken House.
And I'll second it.
Make sure it's clean, site's clean.
Can I just
Yep.
say, there is a lot of livestock on the property. Is that housed somewhere else? The livestock that's on the property?
I'm pasturing some cattle.
Yeah. So you have a separate barn for them? Or how do you, it's not this, they're not in any of this. This structure is just, this structure is just kind of, and I see it's half.
Actually, a little red barn that if I'm selling calves, I'll put them in stalls.
Oh, okay.
That's in front. You can see it.
Yeah, I see them. Yeah, I always
So-
see them as I'm driving by.
So before we can let you go, we have to tell you that it has to be cleaned up. If there's any septic tanks, which I doubt there is for the chicken house, or anything, you got to fill them in. You've got to clean everything up. You got to sow grass back. You got to make it look like it's a field. You cannot leave any debris.
I cannot leave it.
Any debris.
And no, I plan on, I guess, calling the demo guy and put it in containers.
Haul it off.
Haul it out.
Yeah. So the whole general idea is to get it all nice and clean, make it look back to natural pasture land or however you intend to use it. Okay.
So you still need to get a demo permit.
Yeah,
That's what I'm here for.
it's currently in review.
Oh, it is in review. Okay, good. So you've already filed for the permit. Good. Okay, I'm good.
Okay. Sir, you're a good. I got to make a motion to approve the Mountain Road demo for the chicken house.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
The chickens be gone. Okay. Next is 6A.
This is the public safety complex.
Well, that makes sense.
See, this one, mine's got that out of kilter here. See what that's right there? I don't have the same thing you have.
You do. You're passing it.
It says right here.
Oh, yeah, there's.
There it is at the bottom. Sorry,
Okay, public safety.
I was being unorganized.
You want to go back to the,
Okay, are we ready for
public safety?
the public safety comment? Come on down. We got a public safety building behind door number 1.
On the TV, on the screen.
So the HDMI.
Where's our TV screen? Oh, right here.
Underneath.
Is it the HDMI?
Should have put it right there.
Yeah, no. It's trying the TV
Huh?
on the right, bottom right corner.
Good.
I'm Julie Hall. I'm with Cooper Carey, a project architect for Milton Public Safety Complex, and I'm here to represent the design firm. This is a courtesy review. We finished our schematic design, and we wanted to show you where we are, to get your feedback, and to show you where we're headed with this project. This project is located.
There you go.
I'll start with some site context. The site is located on Highway 9, along Highway 9 and Cambridge High School Road. It's a sloping site. It slopes away from Highway 9, from a high point toward Highway 9 and a low point back towards the high school, the athletic fields. Our zoning for the site is civic building site. We spent a lot of time kind of investigating the site to inform our design. We worked with civil engineers and landscaping already in the process to understand the site and to best utilize the site for how we're using. A little bit about the program for this project. It's 2 buildings. The first building is a court and police building. It's a shared facility with a court and police, and approximately 25,000 square feet, a little less than that. And then additionally, we have a fire building. It's a fire station and fire admin building, and it's just under 15,000 square feet. And these are 2 buildings on the same site, and we'll show you how those are going to situate. But we want to show you a little bit about some of the context that we looked at in Milton, kind of informing our design. We looked at historic buildings and new buildings like this one, Milton City Hall, new library, and then older buildings like the historic courthouse. We looked at cues, basically using the form-based design, and then other cues all around the city of Milton that basically show you and tell you what the style of Milton is. It's basically Milton style, and the things we looked at specifically are the worn brick, the punched openings of the windows, the detailing of the windows, and the detailing of the vertical siding, the window placements. All of the buildings have a very strong cornice. They have a very strong middle and a strong base, and it tells you this is Milton. And it's also has a lot of use of wood, and these are the elements that we wanted to use in this project. So if you look at our site, you should all have one of these that we submitted a week ago. If you look at our site, you see the long sloping site. At the top of the site is our fire station and fire admin building. And the reason it's located along Highway 9 is so that fire trucks can have ready access quick access along Highway 9. And we worked carefully with our civil engineers to design the slope and the topography of the site so that it works well with the fire trucks and their needs. And we've also worked closely with all the stakeholders of the project, which include specifically the fire chief and his advisors, and the police chief, the court clerk and their advisors, and then also the city architect, Bob, who we work closely with. So the site has the fire at the top of the site, the high point, which is about 1142, and it slopes down toward the police building. The police building is situated in the center of the site, and it is the front of the building is actually towards the athletic fields, toward the back. And this is where we have public parking for the police and for the court. And there's two separate entrances for that. And so to orient you, if you're on Highway 9, come along, and then back here beyond is where we have the athletic fields. And we have parking for all of the public parking, which can easily access the front of the building to the police. And then we have staff parking for police, and then also staff parking for fire, a shared parking lot. And then also we have enough spaces for public and appropriate ADA spaces. The site itself is a little over 3.5 acres, and we work very closely with our civil engineers to really utilize the site well. We looked at stormwater and how we are going to address our stormwater holding. We have a retaining area, and then we have underground stormwater storage as well. The buildings are, the fire building is a one-story building at the top of the site, and the police station and the court is also a one-story building with a partial basement below. There's also a fire tower as a training facility adjacent to the fire. Let me get into a little bit more specifics. This is our courthouse and police, and our first floor is approximately 15,000 square feet on the first floor. We have on the north, to orient you, this is let me go back one. Hold on, sorry. So our sally port, we have basically a secure sally port at the north, which is, so this is our north part of our site up here, and then our court basically faces west. The entrance is on the west, and then our staff parking is on the east, and then our entrance drive is on the south. So this is a north, this is Sally Port. So when we get to our plan, we turn the building so that this is north. This is a Sally Port. That's north. This is our west entrance. And this is our east and our south. But this is a long Cambridge High School drive right here. And we enter the site, and this is a public parking. And we've also really thought about entrance into the site and plaza, kind of public entrance into the site. We have two separate entrances for the court and the police, and that's the reason for that is we work closely with the police and the clerk to basically define those spaces and how they function and the best uses. We have covered parking, a covered porch for people who are queuing to enter into the court so that they don't get rained on. Everyone's had that experience where they've gotten rained on if you're trying to enter into a secure lobby for a court. So before they enter into the secure lobby, there's a covered porch and with elements that we took from Milton design. We have a partial basement. The partial basement is roughly 9,000 square feet, and we've really worked closely with technical consultants in programming and with the police to really program the space so that we know what kind of evidence they're going to need, what kind of evidence storage they'll need for future. And the basement really is a future needs. A lot of it is for, the city of Milton is growing, and we've tried to provide some additional space for growth. And it also utilizes a site. Since it's a sloping site, we've taken advantage of that to build out this basement. And we have storage down here, and some very specific police technical rooms. I'm going to talk about our elevation. So again, taking our cues from the city of Milton, Milton style, we have a one brick building primarily, and then we also have elements of vertical siding, which we see both of those elements strong throughout Milton. We have a very strong horizontal base, which grounds the building, and then a middle, and then a very strong top, which is our cornice. And the cornice is a material is a fiber
Cement.
molding and brackets, and it gives it a very much three-dimensional look. And then we have porch with a lot of wood, heavy timber wood with exposed rafters and really nice detailing. We have two different porches, one over the court entrance and then one over the police entrance. And we have a very large feature that kind of cues you as you enter the site. This is the entrance. This is where you go. If you're a public and you want to know, how do I get into the court? Then we have a very prominent entrance feature that cues you. This is where we go, so no one will get confused as to where the front door is. And then when we look around the building, we really paid a lot of attention to make sure that we have a lot of relief and a lot of depth in our elevations, a lot of shadow with our porches, our front porches, and then our use of material. And then we have a lot of, if you remember the plan, it's not a box. There's a lot of depth in our plan. We really utilize the site well for that, we feel. And then we are beginning to work with our landscaping to develop kind of public spaces for our landscape and the trees, and we're thinking about using ground cover and also hedges and bushes to kind of define the space so that people will know where the entrance is. And then also we looked at closely our staff entrance at the back, which also has a covered entrance. All right. And then we studied the building in 3 dimensions, kind of look around the whole building to see what the building looks like kind of in 3 dimensions and how it relates on the site. And I'll show some additional slides on different perspectives from the site. And now we step into the fire station, fireman building. We look at the plan. We have a 3 apparatus bay. The building itself is, I think the square footage is just under 15,000 square feet for the fire station. And then we also have an adjacent fire training tower that's for training only. We have a porch entrance here, and this is for, as you enter, when you enter the site, the trucks enter into the apparatus bay, and then they exit along Highway 9. So Highway 9 is along this top of the page and runs along the length of the building. And then the apparatus bay, the fire trucks exit, and we work closely again with our civil engineers to engineer those turning radiuses and the site path along that corridor. At the top corner, the right-hand corner, is where we have a pedestrian entrance. It's really your front door for your fire station. And we have, again, the same type of detailing with our front porch. It's a wraparound porch, and it's a very highly detailed entrance into the fire station. And this is basically your entrance into the fire station. And then there's also around the back side, we have some visitor parking. So we have an entrance, also a public entrance into the fire station from the back. So there's a front door and a back door, and both have covered entrances. And then the apparatus bay is for the fire station, for the fire trucks. And then we have a very specialized, that we work really closely with, again, our consultants, technical consultants, and with the fire chief for programming and their advisors. And we've also worked with our city architect, to inform our design on how we organize our space. And we have at the front of the fire, we have a day room and a large kitchen, and we've really thought about how we're going to, how these firemen are going to live while they're on duty in these in their back spaces. They have bunk rooms in the back, and we paid special attention to all of their living spaces. If we continue, this is our firehouse. Fire station, we have 3 large apparatus bays. They're quite large, 14 by 14, that's standard size of the door openings. The structure itself is 1 story, has a high bay, as you can see at the entrance where the fire trucks drive through. And that high bay is approximately 26 feet and 8 inches. And then we have a tower that we're not showing in this picture. It's like slightly in the back here. And that's the kind of the outline of how the tower is going to relate to the building. And I'll show that a little bit in a second. So this is our entrance. You can see the graphic. We were thinking of having graphic 44. And again, we have the same elements that we talked about on the police and court with the warm brick, the strong base, the vertical siding, and a strong cornice top, and then the middle banding, and then a strong base. And that kind of grounds the 2 projects. Even though they're very different looking, they have very common materials, and the way that we're using the materials is very similar. We have very similar porches, and this kind of cues you that this is part of a complex. This is part of a whole design that we've looked at. Continue. This is basically the west elevation, which is basically where you would be parking if you're a visitor to the fire station. If you will be parking and entering into this entrance here, and then the tower is in this area, or be in front. We did not put the tower in front just so we wouldn't block the elevation, but we do have pictures of the tower as well. But this covered area here is actually for the firemen, it's just a covered porch for part of their living space, and there's a grill there for them. Side elevation, we have very prominent, thought about where our flagpoles is going to go in relationship to the front door and the city and the street at Highway 9 and Cambridge Drive, Cambridge High School Drive. This is our fire tower. It's a very open structure. So we see it as kind of a transparent, very open and light. It's very soft. But we have the same colors, kind of warm earth tone colors that we're using on the police, court, and fires. But it's the reason why it's so open is we've worked with the fire chief in understanding his needs and how many levels he needs for his training. We have an opening here that's so that the firemen can rappel down. There are no fires that are actually would happen on the fire tower. It is for training. And it's adjacent to the firehouse so that the fire trucks can pull up right next to the fire tower and be ready to work on their procedures. We have some 3-dimensional studies, kind of show what it looks like in 3D, and the shadow ones, you can tell that we really thought about how we're beginning to detail these and think about the craftsmanship of this. Is not flat facades, very 3-dimensional, lots of depth, and we're beginning to really start to detail how these parts go together. We have some materials that we're looking at. We've really started with our cues from this building. It's the same design team that worked on this building, and we had a similar water table brick. The base is Pinehurst. It's the same brick base that you have here. We thought of unifying those projects kind of as a starting point, as kind of a reference that this is the city of Milton. And then we have warm earth tones on our colors, and our warm wood timber, and medium brown anodized windows. And then we started to look at our details. These are a little closer up the punch windows and some brick detailing that we're beginning to look at. The brackets at the top, you can see in this. I don't know if you have this. We have a cornice and then a middle piece and then the base. And we're really starting to design and develop those elements.
Can I ask you a question about that slide?
Yes.
Can we go back to that slide?
Is the which?
The one that shows the windows with the lintels.
Yes.
I want to ask, Tim is our resident architect here, of course, along with Bob. So the question I've got really is directed to the whole group. Rather than having brick lintels,
Yes.
I'm going to use the word creosote railroad post as just a look.
Okay.
Could we detail that and put our lintel out of wood like that? That gives it more of that more older look as to it, and to get a better three-dimensional view along the sides of the windows and the bottom.
Oh, yeah, we can look at that. We can see if we can.
Bob, what do you think?
I think it would look good.
Yeah, I think it looked very nice. It would give it a nice, we have a lot of timber on the porches.
Right. So what I'm looking for is a way to tie that in, to open up those windows a little bit in terms of making them more of a focal part.
Okay.
I just got a couple questions. I'm only thinking about them as they've come across my mind. So, one, the apparatus doors, they're the folding ones, right? They fold up left or right.
They are bifolding doors, and that's the reason for those is it opens more quickly, so the firefighters can get out more quickly.
Right.
And there's less chance of accidents. Basically,
A door coming in.
less likely to hit those.
Okay.
Because they're
This probably is more the firemen quarters for their sleeping arrangements.
Yes.
Are we using VAV type HVAC in those to where they're like mini splits? Each one controls their own temperature for each one of the little rooms they have?
There are separate zones. There's, I believe, 7 different zones for the fire station, and there is some. I think there's a perimeter zone and then an interior zone, but I don't know that we have individual zoning right now for each room.
So, Bob, one of the things I would ask you to look at when you look at the design of the mechanical side of the building, in the Atlanta fire stations that we've built, we've incorporated, and the money cost was virtually no different for us to do it this way, was we actually gave each fireman individual control of their individual rooms, because we found out that firemen all like it a little bit different temperature. Most of them like it cold, but the reality is they have different temperature settings, and cost not being a factor, if it turns out to be the same, that would be something I'd like for us to look at for the firemen.
Okay. Presently, the way we're laying that room out, those walls would only go up about 8 feet.
Oh, so they're not going to be
14.
closed off separate rooms?
So it wouldn't be, yeah, so we'd be sharing sprinklers, lighting, HVAC.
Okay, well then that
kind of
will
thing.
moot my thought. Next on the parapet that's up on the top.
Yes.
So, right, what I'm interested in is, the last thing we want to do is to be able to see from any of the directions the mechanical portion of the equipment.
Yes.
And so I was looking for a little bit more detail.
Okay.
If you go back couple more screens, and I'm sorry if I'm doing this out of order and messing you up.
So go to.
Keep going back. Keep on going. Keep on going. Keep on going. It's way back.
Okay, gotcha.
That's the reason
This one.
It's the one that shows the lighted out. Keep on going.
That's all the fire.
No, keep going. It's on police.
It's on police? Okay, I'm so sorry.
It's on police.
There you go. We're getting close. Right there. See how that parapet is a different?
Yes, the bar parapet.
Right. Right.
Yes. It's going to be finished on that side, similar to the front. It's just right now we have it just very faint so that it's really far away from. But
So Bob, what did you have in mind for that parapet area going to be in terms of making the building look really long and be able to obstruct the view of the equipment? Because we all know that when they build the parapet, they're going to run their TPO up the top, the back of it to the back. And so if you can see that, then I'm not trying to be
Julie, I
difficult.
think what he's referring to is they don't want to see the back of the parapet walls.
The site plan, because we can have like a page of the plan that can talk about what this is, sorry.
I just happen to know that slide, I recognized it.
The high bay, there's a high bay, and we have our larger HVAC units in that high bay where we have the parapet that goes all around it, which is where the court is. So basically where the court is, we have the majority of our HVAC units on the roof, but we are considering them, and I'll show you toward the end of the project.
Where the mechanicals are put in.
Yes. So we're,
I'm sorry, I just tried to make sure I got covered the thoughts I had.
So we won't, the main thing, Julie, is I think what the board is trying to say is that they don't want to see any mechanical equipment exposed, and they don't want to see the backs of parapet walls.
okay.
So if an element protrudes higher than the cornice, and it's a wall, they don't want the back of it just to have a membrane back. They want it to have a finished on all
Correct.
sides, because you'll see it from the street.
It's finished
Right.
from all sides.
Is that what, that's it, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So if you look at these three-dimensional, so on this one, I don't know that we would see on the fire, but on the police, you're right, the court, that facade, basically that wall that defines the court is a high bay area, and on the back of the police station, you would see that wall that would extend. So we'll look at that, yes.
We'll just finish it.
Okay, good.
Yeah, we'll have a nice finish on it.
Sorry to tie you up there.
Okay. And that's pretty much, that's it. Thank you so much. We're hoping to get your feedback.
Do you have any questions?
Where we are, and of course, we'll come back toward
Okay. DD.
later on with once we get our
Yeah, this was, we really wanted to bring it to the board just as a courtesy where we are, as like a sort of a fingerprint of where we are at this point.
Okay.
We are running on schedule and on budget, so we're doing good. We're slightly below, actually. So we're running really good. I just wanted to make sure we got some exposure to the board early on, and then a DD would bring in the final.
So if we go under budget, does that mean we can give the firemen some extra stuff?
I don't know. I do have the fire chief and the police chief here. If they would like to get up and say anything, they're more than welcome to come up if they'd like to mention something.
Chairman, board members, Bob Edgar, Fire Chief. First of all, I'd like to thank Bob and Julie and her team for the great job they did. They've designed a building that fits nicely into the community, and which is important. But more importantly, they've designed a building that's functional, that will serve that side of the community as well as the entire city as a fire station. And we currently house our ladder truck in Alpharetta's fire station. So this is going to create a new home for our ladder truck and put it back in our city where it belongs. And it's also going to add another engine company over there, as well as a battalion chief. So the staffing is going to be shifted around a bit. In years to come, hopefully, we're going to be able to build on that and add additional staffing. But the great part of this is that it's going to improve our response times in that part of the area, that part of the city. And that's where our greatest call volume is that Highway 9 area. So this is a true need for the community as well as that particular area. And with all of that said, hopefully it will improve our ISO rating, which establishes your property insurance for your businesses as well as your homes. So this will improve that, hopefully lowering those rates.
Okay.
It seems to be a win-win all the way around.
Well, Chief, thank you for all that you do.
Mr. Chair, board members, my name is Rich Austin. I serve as the police chief for Milton. I too would like to thank Bob and the team, also of our court administrator, for this. We're very happy with this design. And we still have a few details to work out, but the overall design of the building very much fits our needs. And just looking at that, primarily, it's a much more aesthetically pleasing building than certainly we have now. We're still working out of the business park on Deerfield. Bob has very artfully struck a balance between a building that is community-friendly, yet has the controlled access we need to protect our employees. A lot of them work inside the building are non-sworn civilian employees that aren't ready to deal with some folks that may be at state. So that's something that was very important to us. That was the design. Provides adequate storage for our vital equipment needs and allows us a lot of flex space for our open areas. This facility is proposed to also provide training areas. Currently, our officers, if they want to take advantage of regional training, they often have to travel quite a distance. So with this building, we would actually be able to host training, which will allow officers to have their tuition waived or reduced. It's going to be a showcase building and a regional building as well for training. Area of equipment maintenance, we have several firearms instructors and armors. Right now, they have to work at a very makeshift area. This building would bring a state-of-the-art armory area for them to work house weapons and use those skills. Training. This will also allow us to host community meetings, promotional ceremonies, and other community events in our own space. Right now, we have to use this space oftentimes, and it's a very beautiful space, but as the city grows, space constraints are going to be an issue. So this will allow us the ability to connect with the community in our own space. That's very important to us, and this design would certainly allow for that. Speaking on behalf of Brook Lappin, the proposed court area, unlike our current facility, has a more functional lobby, which was mentioned, which allows those attending court to wait inside out of the elements. We're unable to allow that now for security reasons. And also the enhanced security just getting into the court local information. And overall, just being in a lease space has been constraining, not being able to make the technology upgrades that we wanted to invest in a lease building. So this will allow us that opportunity from the security systems to the integrated camera systems to the officer workstations to the emergency operations center, which becomes vital during states of emergency when our citizens rely on us. It's very important to us. Overall, again, thank you for the work that's been put into this already. We are fully supportive of this design as it moves forward. Really appreciate the consideration.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
Do you have any questions from the board?
You wanted to put those
Comment.
lintels over these bays too?
Pardon me?
You wanted to put those, the wood, or
The wood lintels? That would look good. I mean, I would like to see that little additional to the wood lintels and stuff over these big spans. I don't even know how to tell you the design concept that I'm looking for, except that I've seen it, and it makes a really beautiful three-dimensional wraparound stuff. So
I'll probably have a chance to review it when they bring it back from.
I think Reed's mentioning even over the bay doors.
Right.
For the fire.
it'd be the biggest area where it would pop if you wanted that old barn farm look.
some of the most beautiful buildings I've ever seen have been originally post and frame structured, just walls and a roof. Then they added brick to it. You know what I mean? And it just turned out to be such a beautiful building, which is a mix of the wood and the brick. You know, our building here is a beautiful building. We've used wood and brick in this particular structure, and I would just like to see us take it a little bit further on that structure if possible.
Isn't the best thing about this that Q Barbecue is right next door? I mean, I'm sure the police and fire know that they're going to get some overflow traffic or parking there.
So if we give our blessing on this, will we get free parking
I did have one more
over at the
thing.
police station?
I've got one more thing. Do they share a garbage area? Is that what I saw here?
Yes.
Oh, we didn't talk about one other thing that needs to be brought up. The generator that's up close to the building.
Yes.
I'd like to move it to the dumpster. And I think that we'd have to talk to the chief, but I think that giving up 1 or 2 parking spaces, if we are allowed to do that, it would be better that to be able to give that noise not to be so close to our firemen and give them extra space.
You can ask the chief, make sure.
All right.
Yeah, I would like to ask. I mean, is that sufficient to share? It looks like a very small garbage zone, trash zone, for the fire and police to share that. It doesn't cause any problems for anybody.
In other words, we have one dumpster. We have 2 dumpsters, but they're shared between the 2 buildings. Yeah, and I would have to work. I'll work with the 2 chiefs
Just be a
to
good
make sure
question.
that we have pickups.
The only debris they're really putting in there is office type debris, right?
Yeah, well, and the fire puts in food, and they cook and live there, so that's why I have 2.
Right.
So I will go back, Reed,
I mean,
and I
and
will make sure that
in our
it is
business, which we
sufficiently
use-
sized as far
Yeah,
as the
I mean, it just looks
dumpster
like
and
a
the
small
size of the
space for the-
dumpster. Yeah, I'll have to make sure that we look at that more carefully and look at the size. It's a good comment. Make sure we size the dumpsters.
Good job.
Thanks, Julie.
Thank you. That was a great comment.
Have a good evening.
Thank you, Julie. Yeah, so you can just hit it and it will go back.
I've got one more crap on my stuff here. Okay. Next, we have Crabapple Market, 12608 Crabapple Road.
I think we have one before that, don't we, or do we not?
Do what?
No, we don't. You're right.
Do we have it? Yeah, Crabapple Market. Yeah, it's this. It's this.
Good evening, Adam Orkin, CEO of Orkin Associates, 760 3004, partner of Crabapple Market, and this is Chuck O'Brien, our town architect.
Chuck O'Brien, Michael O'Brien, her architects, 1000 Royal Boulevard South, Alpharetta, 30022.
And I'm going to let Chuck run through the slides. This is our first year review of the development of Crabapple Market.
So the information on the screen is the same information that's in your package that was distributed to you. So the site is on Crabapple Road. Currently, it's to the west of Itasca Walk on Crabapple itself.
Do you mind to pull the mic up just a little bit? There you go.
Yeah, is it
Is it on?
Yeah, so.
Technical difficulties.
Like turn this on. Let's turn. Okay, you're back.
Hello? Oh, there we go.
There you go.
I'll start over. This is Crabapple Market Phase 3. So the site is located to the west of Itasca Walk along Crabapple Road. It's currently the gravel parking lot and the site across Heritage Walk. It's indicated there on the plan. If we turn the plan over just a little bit, it's a little bit easier to understand how the site is configured here. At the roundabout in the foreground, my pointer works here. The roundabout there in the foreground, we've positioned 4 individual single-story buildings to face that roundabout and also to create a gateway into Heritage Walk. Those buildings are positioned in such a way they create little plazas in front of those buildings and also between those buildings. As we move further down Crabapple Road, there's a 2-story building positioned at the mid-block and a 3-story building positioned at the intersection of Itasca and Crabapple.
You might use the cursor. Mm-hmm. Is there a cursor you can point to?
Can you see that cursor?
Yep. Oh, okay, now I can, yeah. Thank you.
There's a 3-story building that's located right here.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. The 2-story building that I referred to, excuse me, at the mid-block is right here where the cursor is. And then we also have 2 single-story buildings on Heritage Walk and Itasca, one here and then one here. Those buildings all work together while they're individual buildings in presentation and in character. Those all work together to conceal this 2-story parking deck in the center of the site. So right where the cursor is there, that's the upper level of the parking deck. That parking deck is accessed from a ramp off of Heritage. It's also accessed underneath from Itasca. There's no internal ramping to that parking deck for vehicular use. Across the street from Heritage are 3 individual buildings with retail on the ground floor and residential units above. We'll see more of those in a moment.
So when we look at the character of Crabapple Market that's there now, we see Italianate architecture that's heavily influenced, right? We see in the buildings that are just behind you out the window there. So we've drawn upon those, that element. We've grabbed hold of that. We don't want to just copy that over and over again. We want to have an evolution of that, but we also want to introduce a vernacular type of architecture as well. So we'll go to the next slide here. We want to have a familial appearance to all of these buildings, but they also don't want to be just cookie cutters. So here we have a view of the roundabout in the foreground here, and then these are the two individual buildings that face that roundabout. They're a story and a half in height. They're vernacular in character. They have weathered brick, and they're also, the story and a half also makes them more vertically oriented than a normal building. If we move on to the next slide. Here we see the side of these. They have individual windows that are vertically proportioned with mullions. There's a standing seam metal roof. There's a lot of signage that's shown in all of these images. These are concept images. Signage would be applied for in a separate application. Here we have the two-story building with a central arcade element that's very strong. It also has two symmetrical flanking wings. The base of these buildings are dominated with these large arched openings. The upper floor is lit with these individual separate windows, and then the whole composition is capped with a strong cornice element. So here in the foreground, we have Itasca. Just to the right of your screen here is one of the existing buildings. Laurel and May is actually in the ground floor there, just for reference. So this three-story building is dominated with these impressive two-story arched windows with a cornice and then individual windows above that. If we move into the site a little bit onto Heritage and Itasca at that intersection, the building we just looked at being the three-story is over here on the left. We have a single-story building that conceals the parking deck. It's arched windows, or it's a tall one-story building. It's a story and a half, really. The strong cornice element has these other roof elements that stick up above to be able to give an opportunity for some signage, whether that's the tenant or the Crabapple Market branding. Staying in that same position, if we just turn around and look at the existing three-story building here in the background, where the cursor is, we also have a storage building that's positioned right at the corner. It's doing a few things for us here. It's providing an end cap to the parking that's there now, and it's also providing a nice street edge for us. This building is vernacular in character, and it's also mostly opaque given its use. But the articulation comes in those doors and with some windows. If we move on up Heritage Walk, in the distance where the cursor is, at the top of the hill there would be the roundabout, just to give you a frame of reference to where you are. This is another one of those single-story buildings that's concealing the parking deck. It's another vernacular-type building. It's with whitewashed brick. It's got a strong central gable-ended element. It's got vertically oriented windows and then flanking wings. If we're hovering above Heritage Walk and looking across the street, we see those three individual buildings. These buildings are retail on the ground floor, and then each building has two residential units above. So on this building here, for example, the left-hand element here would be one unit, and then the right-hand would be another unit. And then these units are really pretty great. They have rooftop terraces as an outdoor space. They're really pretty nice.
Well, that's because you designed them.
Yeah, pat myself. These buildings are stair-stepping their way up Heritage Walk. So there's a pretty good climb up Heritage Walk, and these buildings step themselves up the hill. And while they're doing that, we'll see these plazas that are in between these buildings here in a minute. But just to give you a little taste of what's coming. So here we are back on the ground at Heritage. We see how these buildings create a really strong street edge. Just another shot from Heritage standing on the sidewalk looking up. So we see these cornice elements. We see a lot of familiar parts used in different ways. If we are all the way in the back of the site here, these are townhomes in the back. On the left, the hard left here, and the hard right. From a building placement perspective, that's where those buildings will be. From an architectural perspective, they won't look like that. That'll be under a separate application. They're just as a placeholder there for now. But what we want to have your attention drawn to is the back side of the buildings we were just looking at. So we'll get a better handle on what they look like here in just a second. So here's one of those plazas between these buildings. In the distance, you can see one of the buildings that are screening the parking deck. In the foreground, we've got a plaza, and you start to see how they're transitioning from one flat plane down some stairs to another plaza level, down some more stairs to another plaza level for outdoor dining and other outdoor activities for these retailers. From a residential unit perspective, if you live there, you could park in your private garage and circulate from that private garage up and into your unit. If you received a visitor, your front door is actually this right here, where the cursor is.
Okay.
As we're moving ourselves closer to that roundabout, we're almost finishing our lap around this project. We see a night shot of what these buildings could look like. We start to see a little bit of a raging fire there in the fire pit. Probably calm that down a little bit. But the idea here is that it's, again, that street edge and that presence that's really strong along Heritage. And then as we come all the way back up to the roundabout here in the foreground, we see the two individual buildings that we talked about right away that are on the western side of that roundabout, creating that gateway. It's another vernacular type building, but still it's a different type of brick in a slightly different format with different types of windows. And then just an evening shot of the original buildings we looked at.
So, quick question. One of the only common areas, just places to be outside, is in between the potential townhomes. Am I correct? There are no other common areas where there may be benches or...
Oh, the whole property will be.
Just, okay.
It will just be a continuation of what's here now.
Okay.
So there'll be areas all through that you'll have open spaces.
Okay.
So we didn't have any elevations of the parking deck and how that parking deck addresses to each of the buildings in the back. So the curious thing I've got is one of the things I didn't like about Avalon was having that section that was between the parking deck and the building itself. It just seems like an industrial entrance into the back of those buildings. So what I'm asking is, how did you address that and what was your ideas?
Sure. So the parking deck on the backside of the 2-story and the 3-story building will actually touch that building. And
okay.
So there'll be no gap in between there other than just maybe an expansion joint. It'll be almost none. Between the single-story buildings, we're still working on that currently. There might be a little gap in there just to make it from an ease of construction perspective, but it's not going to be anything like Avalon. I know the section you're talking about, it's not going to be like that at all. The site is too constricted to have that sort of an element.
Well, I know it's really difficult to get in there to do anything it's hard to get to.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't look very attractive back in the backs. And so this would be, even though I know it's not our road front, but it's where the people are going to see it. And You know, I think the other buildings that we have down through this corridor that's already been built, I think that the fronts and the backs of the building equal the fronts. So that, you know, really the front of the buildings on the back of the road versus the ones on Crabapple, they're both very attractive. So that's what I was trying to make sure that we carried that through to the next phase.
We agree.
Yeah, I think this is really good illustration of, you know, we're trying to build out the balance of Crabapple. And this is this particular phase. And it's sort of like we've asked them to, instead of coming in with the buildings individually as they're getting built, to really look at it from a master plan perspective. Let's look at this thing holistically. Let's see what it really, how do all these buildings and spaces relate to one another? How do they interlink? We're finishing up the road. Heritage is getting done. We're planning on putting trees now in the, once GDOT is done and turns it over, we're going to start putting trees in the median. We're starting to put more crosswalks. We're studying all the crosswalks because they're, you know, everybody's looking for better pedestrian connectivity in the area. So we're really going to start integrating that. So I think they've created buildings and places and the scales step down towards the residential. So they go from a 3 to a 2 to a 1 so that we have better relationship. It goes from commercial along the main road of Crabapple Road to a mixed-use style building and then to a townhouse. Originally, they were going to do some flats back there, and now it's I think the conversation's changing to more of a townhouse development with actually less density and less height. So it has better relationship to all the neighboring houses around it as well. So we're really being sensitive to some of the comments and feedback we got back when they proposed the flats. So they've changed that whole perspective, and it's not in this particular submittal tonight, but it does show the relationship of what's going there.
The only thing I would ask from you guys, leave the Crabapple sign. Let's try to keep the Crabapple sign at the top.
Yeah, good.
I like that sign.
Great.
You know, I think it's a very definitive thing, and
At the entrance.
yeah,
It's a statement there. Yeah.
you go back
An
right there to the
opportunity.
Crabapple sign. I just think that is just a really neat touch, and I like it a lot. I like the fact that you've got the different colored bricks throughout the building and the way they're changed out.
Is there any opportunity for on-street parking down Heritage for these? Is that something that would be good for the businesses? Or?
Not on Heritage, but if you see the photos along Crabapple Road,
Yeah.
GDOT's already striped it for the on-street parking, and now we're just working with them to get into the balance of that on-street parking. It's going to be just like the illustration is here. So there will be on-street parking along Crabapple Road.
You guys have done a really good job.
Thank you.
I mean, it's, you know.
I think it came out very nice, Chuck, and it really does look nice. I think it's going to be a nice addition. It's certainly meeting all the form-based code criteria. There's no variances. There's no, you know, he's worked within all the codes, and everything here is all as of right. So, and he's actually decreased his density as he's gotten closer to the residential components to be even more sensitive there. So I think he's really done a great job putting this together holistically, and there is a small parking structure there, but it's totally concealed in behind.
Yeah, I mean, that's the most impressive thing about it, to go from, Alpharettis, where they've done a good job hiding theirs, but it is exposed, to completely hiding this is
Totally
pretty
hiding it.
fantastic.
I'd like to also point out, over on the west side of the property, the buildings over to the west tie into the bike trails. So when the trails are built, you'll just come right into Crabapple, park your bike, come into town.
Let's add golf carts and stuff to that.
Okay.
So,
What do you guys think about these buildings at the top next to the roundabout that are, I love the use of space for a front sort of patio and a rear patio from the right to the left side. Bob, I guess just the angle of that building.
Yeah, we're trying to create these.
Just a flow of
We're trying to create plazas so that when you're making the turn and you're coming through that roundabout, you sort of see these open pedestrian style plazas. They still have some street walls, little fences and things to create some privacy, but it would be open. And we're trying to induce a lot of walkability downtown. This is our downtown.
Okay.
And we're really trying to work with the development community who's going to end up building it out to really promote and induce walkability. And the idea is you park your car, you get out, you spend the day downtown in Crabapple. There's a lot of children that walk around, a lot of students that come out of school that use it. So we're really looking at all that safety measures and getting people around. And Orkin and Associates is extremely sensitive to all of those things. He really wants to create great outdoor spaces, integration between the building and the outdoor space, having these plazas between buildings where we can have little outdoor eatery areas or places people could sit at night and just relax and enjoy the outdoor space. So I think we wanted to show it to you as a conceptual idea. This is like a concept review. But I think we're sort of on the right track on making this really into a great downtown.
Yeah, it's great.
Well, guys, you and all your partners, I can only say it from my personal experiences that when you build something, this will be something you look back on the rest of your life, and you'll say, I had this idea. And when you see it in reality, then it's awesome. So I can't tell you anything except it's a great looking project. Do we have any questions from the citizens? Any more comments or statements from?
No.
I just think as the applicant comes in with individual buildings, he might want to build one building and then jump to another building. And this way, at least the board sort of knows the whole picture. That's really what we were trying to achieve.
And guys, what I would like to see is that when you do come back to present the buildings on a one-on-one basis, that we have this overview plan with us at the time that we approve those individual buildings. Because it does get hard sometimes to remember what you look at when you look at so many different ones. Not that this one's going to be easy to forget. So,
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
And then just to remind the public and the board that Orkin and Associates also built the park across from City Hall, and they've enhanced it. They built all the plaza areas and the green, and it's a great open space, and they paid for it 100%. They're maintaining it 100%. It's not costing the citizens any money for that park. It is his park, but I mean I think it's a great green space, and all the buildings are going to be around it, including City Hall. It's going to be it's proven to be a great addition. It's already there. It's finished. It came out very nice.
It's very seldom that as individuals we get to do something that impacts our community so much, and you should be proud that you're going to impact this community for the next 100 years.
We are.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
3505 Bethany Bend.
Cease.
God, I hate this. Can you handle this for a minute while I go back there?
Oh, okay.
Hello, good evening. My name is Biju Epen, 3505 Bethany Bend, Milton, Georgia, 3004. I'm here to move the existing sign to a new location.
And just the board knows, this is the Montessori school on Bethany Bend, and he has an existing sign at his existing entrance, and he's looking to relocate it to the corner, so I guess he can get some more exposure from both sides. The way the code is written, it allows signs like 45 degrees, maximum angle. He wants to do a 90 degrees, so you get exposure from both streets.
Okay.
So he would need a variance on that. So that's why he's coming and requesting this review. We worked with the applicant. We went out and looked at it. The grading is working. The location is working. So it's just a matter of getting him some of that there. And they are redoing, they've rebuilt a lot of Bethany Bend. I mean, they put turn lanes, and now they're going to be completing that, the Strickland roundabout area too, on Strickland there in Bethany. So that project is all in Forsyth County, but it is being completed. Okay. So it's not really under our jurisdiction, but this applicant has had to endure trying to coordinate between Milton and Forsyth County for a long time while he built his new building. And so I thank him for his patience. And so now the building is all done. He's built the new building. It's all complete. You've approved it in the past. So now we're just down to this one sign.
Okay. And this is the same one where at one point it was going to be the post, the high sign.
Right.
Represented
We're going to do it as a monument sign.
Okay.
Instead of having the post, so it looks more permanent, which is what the code requires.
Okay.
So that's why he's showing you the sign here with the 24-inch brick base and then the sign on top.
Okay.
It will look like exactly same what I have right now. So.
Right.
Okay.
And he's going to be put plantings around the front of it, and any lighting would be uplighting.
What's the grade right there? Isn't it dip down pretty far right there?
You want to talk about the base?
Or is it not?
It is. I mean,
Is that
that's
at
why
road level, the sign?
I had to probably 4 feet or something. I had to put dirt in it. I had to do that, yes.
I'm sorry, say it one more
I had
time.
to put about 4 feet of dirt there.
Oh, okay. So you built it up a little bit?
Yes.
Right. So the only comment they did have on this is that his drawing is showing that the brick he's using is like a faux brick mounted to wood.
Mm-hmm.
And I really wanted it to be more of a permanent style brick, a real brick with real block backing.
Mm-hmm.
So it
So did he
becomes a real
agree to the-
monument sign.
Full brick?
I'm going to ask the board not to agree to a faux brick, because that would just be like a piece of plywood where they glue it.
It's got to be a real brick
And I want it to
monument
be a real
structure.
brick.
Okay.
Cinder block back, brick face.
But I'm okay with the 90.
Yeah, I'm okay with the 90.
Okay, so the 90 is good. We'll just make the brick a real brick with some sort of masonry back
Yes.
instead of a wood.
Okay.
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 Again, this is a courtesy review, so
All right.
good, and then you have to appear for the variance.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you again for
All
coming.
right. Thank you.
Next, we have 2660 Bethany Church Road. You building me a place to stay? My wife gets mad at me.
Where'd you plug in?
Thanks, Ted.
It's on the top. Cody's
On
gonna
top?
help you. On the
Yeah, Cody's
left.
coming. He'll make sure you get in the right spot.
There we go.
No, he's got it on TV. The monitor is
Right there. Okay.
That's not that big a house. Why would you want
I don't know.
Okay, great. Well, thanks. My name's Joe Young. I've got a brief slideshow. It won't take but a couple minutes. How many are representing part of my family? There's me, that's otherwise known as Grandpa to my grandkids. My wife, Judy, who is Gigi. Our son, Michael, in the blue shirt. His wife, Rebecca, and their three kids, 3 of our 5 grandkids. We think will be fun and good for us to share 2 houses on the same property. And we've been looking in Milton for that. And we found a property at 2660 Bethany Church Road that would fit our needs. As you can see from the aerial, there's 2 houses there. The one on the right side of the screen will be the main house, and one on the left side of the screen will be the house that Judy and I will occupy. The one on the left is designated guest house. The ordinances of Milton limit that to 1,500 heated and cooled square feet. There's a site plan. It's on a little over an acre. We are not planning to or requesting to expand the size of the guest house at all. We simply want to finish off the basement. Michael and Becca and kids will live in the main house. Judy and I will live in the guest house. You can see it's 3 stories already. The middle level is finished, and it's about 1,250 square feet. The basement is not finished, and the upstairs is not finished. There's a picture of the current basement. Todd Gauthier has a great workshop down there. There's a floor plan of the main level floor that is finished. That's the current configuration. We're simply wanting to combine those 2 bedrooms into one larger master with an ensuite. There's no heated and cooled increase in square footage. In the basement, it's all unfinished right now. So we would like to simply finish off about 900 square feet to make it heated and cooled. The yellow will remain unfinished. The varying colors of blue, we will finish those off into my office, family room, and a second bedroom with an ensuite when our daughter and son-in-law and grandchild from Auburn visit. We've sent letters to 10 neighbors that are within 300 feet of the boundary, and the ones in yellows have responded that they have no objection to our request. There's sort of an aerial. Green have all responded, it's okay. The blue have not responded. We don't know yes or no whether they object to it or not. And that is a copy of the notification they gave back to us, that they've received our letter explaining the variance request and they have no objection. So really, bottom line is we want to finish off a basement. That's all we want to do. Increase square footage of heat and cooled from 1,250 to 2,100, which adds about 600 square feet above the variance limit of 1,500.
I admire you for following the rules. So, most people would have done it without even bringing it up in front of us. So we're not expanding the
footprint.
So
Expanding the footprint, and he's not making any changes to the architecture. The exterior of the buildings will look identical to the way they look right now.
So enjoy your grandchildren as I do mine.
No problem.
Go in peace.
Thank you, sir.
You still have to appear
Oh,
at the
I got to ask, is there
BZA,
any
right?
public comment?
Mr. Chair, just did want to notice that when the applicant came in to explore the possibility of the variance, we did look to see if there were any other options, and the first thought was, could he subdivide the property? But that, I believe, would make, you'd have two subpar lots, so that wasn't an option,
So how do you get, I'm sure it was somebody did it, but how do you get to 2 septic tanks on a 1 acre lot?
I don't know. Fulton County controls that, so.
But you've got them, so Godspeed. Have a great time.
Thank you.
Enjoy your family.
Sir.
Okay.
2790 Bethany Bend.
That's the wellness center, isn't it? That's this right here. Next is 2790 Bethany Bend.
Mr. Young, you may have left your card in the computer. Is it still up?
Sure.
Flash drive? Did you get it? Oh, you got it?
Yeah, you probably got it. It's just loaded.
Exit out.
Pardon?
Is it?
Can you get it?
There you go.
There you go.
My name is Jordan Futch. I am representing the architecture firm with the Animal Wellness Clinic that is proposed to be at the intersection of Cogburn Road and Bethany Bend. I have some exterior renderings of what I'm presenting here, and I'd like to share that with you guys.
Is this a courtesy review?
Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
I am requesting variances on the building materials to be removed and have board and batten certain colors to be replaced. The whole purpose of these variances to be removed, or these variances to be set in place, is that we want a more residential feel for the area because there are prominently residential houses in the area. You have the high school right down the road, a Christian school also on the opposite side, and with those being pillars of residential community, we want to maintain that and possibly bolster that area.
Okay, so just to fill the board in, so this is like a leftover piece. When we did the form-based code, we included on the form-based code extents all the lots, but for some reason this lot was inadvertently omitted. So it's still under the old Highway 9 overlay.
Okay.
All right. So as a result, he would have to conform to those requirements, which would really, those requirements are really geared more towards the Highway 9 itself at the time, which required 75% masonry, very solid, harsh, heavy-looking buildings. And the signs would want monument signs, more like what we just saw, with a brick base. And so when we were working with this particular applicant, he came in, we said, okay, the use is permitted. So the vet clinic would be an animal hospital, however we want to describe it, is a permitted use on this lot. But what we were trying to do between staff and the applicant was we were trying to redo the architecture to really make it look more like a barn, more residential based, something that would be more in tune with that particular corner. It's a prominent corner. A lot of people go past it every day for dropping their kids off from school. It's a heavily trafficked road. And we wanted it to look a little bit nicer, so that we also asked them to move the building closer to the corner so that it would give more space in the back. We oriented all the parking towards the building, kept the parking as a gravel parking driveway so that there's nothing harsh, and picked out all the building elements, barn doors, sliding doors, board and batten siding, and the cupola and the old signs that would project out of the building to make this thing look more like it's truly integrated into the architecture of Milton. So that's why the applicant is coming in with some of these variance requests. It's really to, I think, make the architecture more in tune contextually with what the neighbors and the people would really want in Milton for that particular corner.
Well, having noticed this on the agenda, I sought out somebody that lived next door to one of the ones that we have already approved and has been built and actually is in use. And that person had indicated to me that it was a great neighbor and didn't create a whole lot of problems for them, if any. The only things I would like to add would be your cupola. Mm-hmm. I would like you to put LED lighting so it will light up at night.
We can do that.
Because I think that would be a good landmark look.
I agree.
So that and the color schemes. The color schemes themselves, the white looks pretty muted on the photo of the drawing versus what white really is. And most of us that have ever built something can tell you there are 4 million versions of white.
Yes.
So I would like to ask that Bob or staff approve the colors in a more muted tones, maybe.
So this is coming before you tonight for the variance as a courtesy,
right?
But it would come back to the board for a DRB approval, so for a final review. So we will have the opportunity, if the variance is granted and the applicant continues, to come back and look at all of these items.
Okay. So
overall good to me.
Yeah, so I think it's a nice looking building. I think that it's, a lot of times we face these buildings in a community where everybody finds a reason why we shouldn't have that building there. And the reality is this building will service the community for which it's around, and that I applaud. And so I look forward to seeing what your final design's going to look like. Try to see if you can get the really nice vet to give me some LED lighting at the cupola, and then
Will do. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And similar to the other one that we did on Birmingham,
yeah.
I mean, it's a Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 operation, sort of. It's, I don't know exactly the hours, but there's not weekend hours. There's no outdoor animals.
Right.
You can almost see, it's a good sense. It's the same architectural firm that did that building. And that they,
we've actually approved 2 buildings for veterinary clinics, dog hotels, if you want to lack of better words, and there hasn't been one single person to ever come to me to complain about any of it. And so, to me, I just think it's a minimal invasive use of the property. That is a contentious corner for whatever reason it may be at times. So I look forward to it. Any other comments?
Yeah, I've got a question. Why did you put the entrance door on the Cogburn Road side? Well, the only reason I ask is people are going to have their dogs or their cats or everything. The parking lot's on the complete opposite side of the. I would just consider that. Basically, people have sick animals, and they're going to have to walk a pretty good distance to get inside. Just consider it.
Hey, Bob, wasn't your idea, though, that you wanted to keep,
Well, we wanted it to look residential, and we wanted a front to the building. So we wanted a porch, just so that it looks like, a barn and a house. I mean, we wanted to maintain that. So we didn't want to turn our back to it and put the entrance off the parking lot. Because from the street, when you drive by, we just want it to look like it's an existing, integrated barn in Milton. That was the thing.
Okay.
We could maybe work
Maybe
it out
do
so
a
they have two.
faux entrance on that side. I think just me personally, I'm looking at traffic concerns right there at that intersection. I know sometimes it's backed up right there at Cambridge High School, and just I know I'll be looking for that more to see how traffic is going to be addressed right there.
I actually was out at the property when I submitted for permit and got the signs for it, and I drove around just because I'm me, and I tried to figure out exactly which road had the least amount of traffic or which way getting from Milton or even Roswell over to that area, and I found that having the entrance on Cogburn Road really helps because people can go around and down Cogburn Road and then back out towards Bethany Bend.
Okay.
well, depending on your traffic pattern, you can go either direction.
Yes.
I will look at it.
Yeah,
If we have to flip it
for the
and do a
business
full
better idea.
entrance, I mean, there are options that we can do to appease that concern.
Do we have any public comment? Come on down.
You guys just take a seat in the audience for a minute.
Hey, I'm Dot Blair, 13965 Cogburn Road. I'm a neighbor of this place. I don't have a problem with a vet. I think it's a wonderful idea. Kind of got thrown back by a neon sign and going for a rustic kind of look, though. That's kind of weird right there. But some
Are you
of
talking about the?
putting a neon sign on a barn.
I didn't say neon.
Oh, I thought I misunderstood you.
What I said was LED. What I wanted to do was to light it up.
Light
so
it
it has
up.
a soft tone, but that you see it at night.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I really don't understand the workings of the city and all. I think I've got more questions than anything else. One of my concerns is an entrance on Cogburn Road, because you've got about 100 feet right there, and you've got semis coming over the top of that hill. If you don't have a turn lane, you're going to have an explosion right there when somebody gets rear-ended.
Right.
That's what's going to happen if they don't have an ingress to go into that structure right there, or that building, because they only got about 100 feet, and there's semis topping that hill. Okay, the next concern I have is what happens to the medical waste? Is this surgery? Is this surgery or is this wellness? What type of facility is this? I really don't know. Okay, another concern I have is a 75-foot buffer on the adjacent property side. They're not in this district where this is. They're in a separate district. I think they're entitled to a 75-foot buffer, but we've got a septic tank in there, it looks like. Okay, and then my last question was, is this surgery, general housing, or what exactly do they do here? I don't understand from the application. Maybe there wasn't enough information, or the type was too small, and I couldn't read it. But I'd like to know, what do they do here? Are they going to have outdoor housing of animals? Where are they going to recover? Am I going to have barking dogs continuously?
I think they have to.
Are they going to be housed inside?
They'll be housed inside. The reality of it is, in order to be able to do stuff outside, they would have to take and have that in their application. Is that right?
Yes, it's a small animal vet clinic, so it'd be similar to what's on Birmingham. Everything is housed inside. They don't keep animals overnight unless they're recouping from a surgery, but you can't go there and board your animal for the weekend to go on vacation. This is strictly for clinical, come in, get a checkup.
So it's just a general vet,
It's just a
veterinarian
general
that's
vet.
not surgical?
Yes.
Okay, I must have got some
It's a
bad
general
information
vet.
at some
And
point in
there
time.
is, they do some minor surgeries.
Well,
in
sure,
there.
most general vets do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Has the traffic plan been worked out? Or what stage are we at? Do we have turn lanes for this thing? Because this corner is a nightmare. I can't even get out of my driveway in the morning.
Yeah.
And yet we've got another we've got another entrance right here, 300 feet away from my entrance. And the neighbors next door across the street that butt up on the northern side that are losing their 75-foot buffer, God help them when they try to get out of their driveway now.
Well, I feel your pain. I live on Freemanville Road on a curve that I have difficulty pulling out of all the time. The placement of this type facility is allowed on.
Oh, I understand
and
that.
So what they will have
but they
to
are
do,
asking
though,
for variances
they're going to
here.
have.
Variances have to be approved. So I'm
Well,
just
a lot of the variances they're asking for, though, was based on us trying to make it more appealing from a city staff standpoint, make it more appealing and less invasive to the citizens that are around it, which is one of the reasons why they need the variance.
Well, let's try to do more than make it aesthetically pleasing. Let's make it so it works for the entire neighborhood. I don't have a problem with a vet. I really don't. Our community could use a vet. I go to my vet, and I'm going to have to be parking in a high-rise structure soon. So I'd love to be able to walk my dog across the street. But just do it appropriately for the neighborhood is all I ask.
How would you like to change the entrance into the...
I'd like for them not to have an entrance on Cogburn Road. I really see that as a hazard because they literally, they can't have more than 150 feet. They cannot. And I'm telling you, the number of semis and dump trucks going up and down that road now, I see 5 or 6 semis go. In fact, there was a freaking, sorry, I apologize. But there was a fire of a semi where they closed down the whole road the other day, where the semi caught on fire. So they're there, they're using that instead of 9. And they cap over that little hill. You don't think it's much, but there's not a visual clearance there. And they'll rear end a car trying to take a left-hand turn into this veterinarian off Cockburn Road, unless there's a turn lane.
I think that...
And I don't know where you're going to put
What's the
it.
width of that driveway? Not to interrupt you.
What we'll do is, because it's before it appears in front of the variance, but I'll have Sarah Leaders look at it from a traffic standpoint and see what.
So what we'll do is have this, the
City
city
transportation.
engineer for transportation.
And how about, I know the EPA regulates them as far as waste. Do they have to provide paperwork about how they do that? Is that available for public review as well?
I would imagine
Medical
that's part
waste?
of their licensing
It
for
is.
licensing
That would be a
the
state
clinic.
Don't they have to
requirement.
provide the city something though?
It's a state requirement. They have
Yeah.
to show the city that they've secured those approvals from the state for the licensure.
But
A vet, somebody's gone to school to be a vet is not going to,
it's on
jeopardize their
septic
license.
though. It's not like this stuff's going to be cleaned out. So anything they put down the sink's going to hit my well water. Right across the street.
I don't disagree with you.
You know?
What I am trying to say, though, is somebody that goes to school to be a vet, the vets that I've known have generally ran very staunchly handled things, and they're inspected. So the reality is, can we stop somebody from putting something down the toilet or down a sink?
No,
The
but we
answer
can
is
control
no.
whether they go on septic or sewer.
There's no sewer there, is there?
No,
On that side.
Yeah, we didn't
there's
want
not.
sewer there.
You got a big old septic tank drawn out right on the adjacent property line of a homeowner who's probably also on a well. But anyway, I just wanted to take this
Well,
opportunity.
that would be an
Thank you
argument
so
for
much
all
for
of
the
us to
time.
have about septic tanks and
just some
sewers.
questions I wanted to propose at some point in time for somebody to think about before they just put this thing in there and skip on down the road. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nat.
And I think kind of.
Did you fill, ma'am? I need you to fill, she did? Okay, good deal. Good deal. Thanks.
And those are my 3, would like to see once it's fully developed, the traffic plan, the signage, and the lighting, because I agree that you have people that are next door and they don't want anything that's bright, loud, and just intrusive to that area. So those are 3 things that I know that I'll be looking for when it comes for resubmission.
Can we just recap quick? We have the,
Actually, can we go through there's 6 variance requests. So can the board go through these one by one and just kind of give me a...
We did not discuss the non-monument sign, ground sign. Yeah, so let's touch on these one at a time.
Okay.
Non-monument sign. The design that you've got of this sign, I'm not opposed to a non-monument sign in that particular marketplace. However, that design is going to have to be more detailed than that for me to be able to say that I would approve a sign.
Okay.
So, but I would tell you that what I would like to see in a sign is more of a antiquity type look of the sign that's does the job it's supposed to do, but I don't even know. You know what I'm trying to say? I'm trying to
You're
say.
going to use white brick for the water table on the structure?
Yes, we were
Right.
going to use white paint to match the exterior for the batten board.
Yeah, I mean, you could do something with, white brick on columns on each side of the sign with more of a wood post look center, something like that, or a barn. I don't know. I'm trying
I think
to
that we
say
just
old
gotta
barn
come and
look
see
center.
what
Yeah, you just need to
options
create
we
a
come
little
up with
bit of
signs.
better looking sign there.
Okay.
Colors, we just said white brick. I really would like to see the colors before we agree that it's going to be white brick or white anything.
So that would come back to you for the final review.
Because the building's attractive. I don't have any problems with the building. But when you look at the color, that doesn't look like a lot of white to me. Does it to you?
No.
So it's an off tone of white. So I will tell you that in Sherwin-Williams, antique white is Dove white in one of the other brands. So what we need to do is actually see a color and what kind of paint you're going to use.
Okay.
So that we know exactly what it is, because nobody knows what the meaning of antique white is.
I have some color chips here if you'd like me to pass those around.
Show it to the chair. Oh, they're all the same chip? Okay.
That's just the pure white.
See, to me, that is like a Dove white. It's not a.
It might be hard to tell with the lights here, too.
Yeah, it could be with just the lights, but the only reason I bring up the question about the color white is because I had a subdivision that I built that a building in the homeowners association took me to task on white. So I had to have the definition of white.
Here's the next one.
Okay, the next one is to reduce the 50-foot undisturbed buffer to the 25-foot undisturbed property along the west side.
I believe the zoning should, variances are going to be addressed in the BZA on the 16th.
We got to make a recommendation now.
Okay.
Okay. Bob, that variance was directly related to us where we wanted to place the building, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And to the left of the floor plan,
Doesn't all of
the
these
west is the church.
setbacks
property.
problems that he has here are all dedicated to where we wanted to place the building?
Yes.
Okay. Then we can address all of them. I can at one time, unless anybody on the board says anything else. To me, I know we officially are asking for a variance, but obviously this is an example of us wanting to place a building in a particular way to get a particular look. I trust our architect's view of this, and I don't have any problems with it at all. To delete the 75% requirement of the brick and provide board and batten. Don't have any issues with that, but in the future when you go to before other boards, tell them that it is concrete.
Okay.
So, to delete the 25% requirement of the accent building materials to provide the board and batten.
No problem there.
No problems there. The building as designed that we have seen right here, unless somebody in the public wants to bring up questions about it, which we're willing to entertain. So we got any public comment about the building or the variances? Okay. That being said, then I think Angela, you've got everything you need from us, correct?
I believe so.
Thank you. Young man, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
I dread that one. Okay. 13090 Hopewell Road. The request is zoned from AG1 to R3A single family.
Good evening, board members. My name is Joshua Scoggins. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Miles, Hansford, and Talent, 202 Triple Gap Road, Cumming, Georgia. I represent the property owner. I think that given the preliminary nature of the zoning and the fact that we have no builder delineated yet for this project, I think it's best to spend everybody's time answering your concerns rather than me walking back through the project. It is a 73-lot single-family subdivision surrounded by R2A, R4A, and R3A on Hopewell Road with a density of just over 1.5 units an acre. We are proposing that it be on sewer. And obviously, since this is a courtesy review, we will be coming back before you with final elevations.
Here's the other side. So this property attaches to Brookshade, right?
This is the property that attaches to Vickery Crest, is across the street from Brookshade. Brookshade is the 1 acre lot minimums. Vickery Crest has sewer, correct?
All the subdivisions around it have sewer. I believe
Brookshade
there are
does not have
portions
sewer.
of some of. Say that again. I'm sorry.
Brookshade does not have sewer.
I'm saying there's some portions of some of the neighborhoods that do not, but I'll let Mr.
Brookshade
Burry.
has sewer.
Mr. Burry developed most of that.
Some sewer. This says that 1,600 foot minimums. Is that right?
That is what is in the code. Because we did not have a builder, I chose not to speculate. I explained that during our initial CZIM meeting. I have no doubt these houses are going to be much larger than that, just because of the price points and the cost of.
Well, I would
the
imagine they
development.
would, but I would certainly not want the 1,600 square
feel
foot house.
Feel
to be
free
built.
to make a recommendation to.
I would say it would at least need to comply with Vickery Crest, which this neighborhood attaches to.
As you might imagine. Okay. Okay. All right. I'm gonna open it up for everybody in just a minute, okay? All right. As you guys might imagine, there's going to be a lot of opposition to this density level on this particular property. It's currently zoned AG1. It's hard for me to recommend anything that I can't see what the end result's going to be and just. So, that being said, other than having a site plan that shows this density level, it doesn't really tell me a whole lot. And you're putting such a density on it, you're going to have to. And the topography on that property is pretty terrainy, isn't it?
It is.
So that means you're going to have to go clear cut basically a lot, right?
I'll leave that to Mr. Burry. He's a.
Whatever the case may be, that's an engineering answer. But that's the one thing we're trying our best to stay away from. And the reality for us is that we have to abide by what the rules are, and we have to follow what the course of our citizens want.
Well, Mr. Chairman, let me ask a question here. This is a courtesy review. This is all subject to the lots being approved. However, this is our only time to make comments on what we would like to see, if they are approved, that they need to come back to us with something. So I think that there does need to be maybe some, is that correct?
This is a single-family subdivision, so this is the only time you'll see it.
It's the only time we'll see it.
So I don't know how in good conscience I can sit there and say that I would want it to be something less than what it's already zoned for. I understand the argument on the developer side that there are R3 close to it. I understand the fact to be able to attach it to sewer. It's just hard for me to want to recommend something that I can't see what it's really going to be like.
Well, I know, but if this does get approved, what this says is they can build 1,600 square foot houses. Is that the way I'm reading this?
I'm sorry?
I want to do them on 1 acre lots.
Right.
I understand that. What I said was, if they want to build 1,600 square foot houses on 1 acre lots with an AG zoning, they'd be able to do it, right, Bob?
Yeah.
So, but they can't get the density they want, and they can't get the per square foot yield they're going to look for at 1,600 square feet per acre per house.
Okay.
Per lot. I know, but we got to wait till we're done with this part, okay?
So just in addition, so the board knows, just so you comment on it, they're also requesting, besides the 73 single-family lots, 2 part concurrent variances. One is to reduce the rural trail from 10 to 5.2, and the other one is to reduce the stream setback from 25 to 0.
So if we can get comments on those as
If you
well.
just comment on those, because
The only comment that I'd really have is that for me personally, that'd be a no-go for me on either one of those variances.
And I agree.
Yeah, I would agree too.
Yeah, I agree on that.
Yeah, one of the problems I have with what we try to do up here is we get this stuff in front of us. We're asked to make a decision or to recommend, not recommend on something that is very single dimensional in terms of view for us to look at it. You know, the reality of it is you may be able to build the most incredible subdivision out of this particular piece of property, but it's not convincing to me to see it the way that it is. And, you know, everybody on this board they can have their own opinions. And that's what we have this board for. Reed's in the real estate industry. I was in the building industry, an architect in the building industry. I feel your pain and what you want to do.
Mr. Berg.
I would like to make a comment. We're not asking to reduce the stream buffers from 25 to 0. We're asking to reduce the outermost 25 feet down to a 50-foot buffer that surrounds the lake. So we're not asking for a reduction of 100% of the specific buffer. It goes 25, 50, and 100, and we're asking to 75. We're trying to reduce the outside 25 feet, not down to 0.
Right. See, I understand, and I appreciate the comment. I wouldn't want to see this density on this particular piece of property. So, you know, short of that, I mean,
I agree. I agree that I don't want to see the density on the property either. However, if they do approve the density on the property, then this is our only time to make comments.
Then obviously we can make whatever comments we want. You know, the reality of it's going to come down to this is economics. And they're not going to build any 1,600 square foot houses on 1 acre lots. So if that's the case, and I guess what I'm trying to say to you guys, I'd like to see a better plan in terms of what you're going to do, what you're going to build, what's it going to look like. I mean, you know, there are some people that develop subdivisions around that we can actually drive through the community or drive through somewhere and see exactly the type product they actually build. And
Reed, did you have comments or suggestions for if it is approved?
For minimums?
Or for whatever?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say that this needs to tie into minimums for Vickery Crest. So I'd like to know what the minimums for Vickery Crest are and/or Brookshade. I mean, it would need to be a similar size house. That's the only thing that is really glaring to me that could be a major problem if this is approved. Besides just the style, the look, the feel of the neighborhood.
so, Bob, you will actually see this, and staff will see this, but we won't see it.
yes.
So our wish would be, you know what we like. You're going to know that we want to keep it standard to the community that's around it.
Well, I mean, that's one of your options. Do you want to suggest design guidelines? Because right now, I don't think we have any overview of the houses.
I don't even know where you even start to begin what that guideline might be without having some sort of presentation as to what their ideas are, and then us try to improve rather than us try to design a building that what we want, you know.
Well, not that the board would design it, but do you want to give the city architect purview?
I would want to give the city architect purview.
So that's I'm just saying that's an option.
That's an option I would take. I mean,
yeah, well,
When you really look at it, there's a large number of lots that they're requesting. They're very narrow lots. They're very small lots. They'd all be front loading because there's no rear alleys. So you're really looking at I think lots that really aren't suitable for the type of housing that we have in this area of Milton. I just don't see the contextual tie-in with what they're proposing here at all.
Correct.
So it is a little difficult for us initially to look at it because it's just, putting as many chips as you can down. And they're not respecting any of the stream buffers.
Right.
They're not respecting any of the topography. They're not respecting any of the open space.
Right.
They're not trying to be sensitive to the road, the houses that can abut the roadways. There's just so many things here
Right. And
that I
even
think
if we-
need to be looked at holistically, and maybe the applicant can go back and really try to put a plan together that is sensitive to those things that would just be typical to any subdivision. I'm not saying that density would be approved. That's totally subject to council.
Right.
But to come in with absolutely a total lack of sensitivity to any of the things that we do here in Milton is really difficult to address.
I know one of the, one option that we did in a past development, what is this, front Hopewell Road?
Yes.
They were required to make those lots an acre. So it would kind of better fit in with the surrounding area. And then I don't know if you had any comments or considerations about possible amenities?
There are no amenities in this, right?
Not currently as proposed.
Even the houses that we did on Lower Hopewell Road for Beezer Homes, we put in a road and a landscape strip between Hopewell Road and the interior, the first interior road. So none of the houses would abut the street directly. So they had a buffer. So all I'm suggesting to the applicant is they know Milton, or they should study Milton better and look at more of the items that could be incorporated into a development. And then whatever that density falls out to, but at least they're addressing and applying some of the things that we would like to see in Milton as a whole.
Hasn't this property been presented to us at least one more time, hasn't it?
It was presented to you with SR Homes as the builder, and SR Homes eventually terminated the contract because they could not, it wasn't the entire tract, it was, let's call it the far west side. So with respect to having a builder at this point, we are talking to several, but respectfully, it's our position, regardless of the builder, the property owner is entitled to a constitutional zoning. I am not under any illusions, excuse me, given how long I've been doing this probably won't end up in court. So I understand your concerns. We will work to address concerns if we feel that addressing those concerns gets us closer to a resolution. But if they keep moving the goal line, then at some point we just have to stop.
So what do you think the gold line's been moved?
I think that the goal line is going to say, well, you need to have at least 1 acre lots on septic tanks, even though you're surrounded by sewer, and you're an island of A1 and a C of subdivisions. I think they're going to have situations where they only want, I don't want to get to house sizes, but we're going to be talking about lots that are all either side loaded or rear loaded. You're going to have probably no lots between the frontage of the lakes and Hopewell Road. This is just off the top of my head from last time. That was 2 years ago, so I'm sure I'm leaving some stuff out. But at the end of the day, the property owner has tasked us with getting him a constitutional zoning, and that's what I intend to do. So, I mean, I understand. I respect this process. We're certainly happy to come back if we have a builder who comes in. But candidly, when you have one that's this contentious, builders don't want to tie one up and have to spend a bunch of money litigating. They leave that to the property owner. That's why you end up with plans that don't have builders. So at the end of the day, I'm sure that we'll be, at some point, have a
My biggest concern
builder.
about this is,
What's that?
we had something that was turned down multiple times, and ultimately they developed it out to put townhouses, basically. And that property is set there as a pipe farm for 3 years.
I understand.
You know, and so currently I understand I'm a builder. I get it. We got to come up with something that's a little bit less invasive as this, and try to come up with something the community can buy. And quite frankly, I think that the community as a whole, we try to get them to buy in. And the only way you're going to do that is with stakeholder meetings and come up with some good set of plans.
We're having those. We're working on zoning conditions, but at the end of the day, I still think that everybody's going to, not everybody, but most people are going to insist on minimum 1 acre lots and leaving it zoned ag.
Well, I guess I have just two questions. This property has been zoned the way it's been zoned for the last 5 years, 10 years, or for a pretty long period of time. So in my brain, the rules has never changed. The zoning had never changed.
That's right.
So it's not that the finish line keeps moving, it's people keep trying to force that square peg into a round hole.
No, I think what you have is if they would stop so I could speak. What you have is a fundamental disagreement about what zoning is legal.
Okay.
Not what the rules have always been. That's fine. This was all A1 at one point, if it had zoning on it to begin with. I've had pieces of property that have no zoning on them. But times change, developments change, the pattern of growth changes. So what something is zoned today may not be what something should be zoned in the future. I mean, if that were the case, nothing would ever be built, because almost every jurisdiction defaults to A1 zoning, from Atlanta all the way to Rabun County. So, I mean, I'm not here to try the case in front of the board. I mean, I know you have better things to do, but we're willing to work with everybody as much as they're willing to work with us. I mean, I commit that.
Our perspective and the community's perspective, you're right. You can litigate this, and there'll be a resolution of some kind.
I agree.
So, but I don't know that serves the community well. Don't know that it serves your seller that well.
It may not.
So, what we'd all be better off doing is trying to have community involvement and coming up with something the community can live with as a community. I understand that people don't want things changed, or they want them as they are, and no offense to the audience, but as a builder, I've always said, if you want it to be that, all of y'all get together and go buy that, and then you can get it. But homeowner sellers have a right to best use, and I just think there's somewhere in between AG1 and what you proposed. There's somewhere to go, and so the reality is there's something about meeting in between and trying to get together as a seller in a community and trying to come up with something that everybody feels like that they have won, and that is all I'm trying to accomplish at this point, because there's nothing I can say about this that's going to be pleasing to the community. There's nothing that's going to be pleasing to you. It's going to be...
I don't take it personally.
I know. You know what I'm saying.
Sure.
It's not going to be the outcome. So what I'm trying to do is reach out to you and tell you that we need to do a good job at reaching out to the community and listen to what they say. Because the reality of it is, most of these people that live around here, they bought here for a reason. And so one of the things I always learned when I built my subdivisions was, first question I had when I built a subdivision was, why would I buy a house in my subdivision? And then I would go around and ask the people that lived around it why they bought their houses. And I ended up at the end of the day with what was attractive and what I could get the best use out of and the highest value out of for my particular piece of dirt and building that I put on it. So I just think that, though, there's no skin in the game for me, lawsuit or not. So, but I think that there's skin in the game for our community. I think there's skin in the game for your seller. I think that maybe we need to have counseling between the two groups to get.
Well, we're trying to have another public meeting, I believe, on the 9th. And I do agree with you. 99 out of 100 of these, we work out.
Right.
And it's always my goal to do that. The only people who win in court are the attorneys. That's the way I look at it. So, with that, I'm happy to answer any other questions. Yes, ma'am.
So if this has been going on for this long and there's been contention for this long, what's the plans to do different at this meeting that's different from the last?
Well, let me
9,000?
clarify the last.
I'm just curious.
The last plan is kind of apples and oranges with this because SR Homes was only buying half the property. So think of everything here back.
Okay.
The rest of this was staying.
Okay.
So it was a completely different site layout. It was the same zoning category, but at the end of the day, it was not the entire property being incorporated into one plan. And it was 2 years ago.
Okay.
I think a lot of things, I think this is really something that needs to be kind of wiped and started anew.
Okay.
But I think where we can begin is by having this follow-up meeting with some of the residents and stakeholders. And if we have people who are willing to work with us, we'll work with them. I mean, that's what I try to do.
I think that if you go in with a clean slate attitude with the community,
Okay.
that you want to listen to what they've got. Your seller has a value number they've put on this piece of property they think it's worth. And so you got to figure out how to please the community and get the value out of it.
You're exactly right.
Per square foot. That's what it comes down to.
Couldn't agree more.
So, with that being said, and I understand this has been hard for this seller, and I understand it's hard for the community around it. You know, I mean, it just is. Nobody wants to see it change. And density, nobody wants to hear the word more density. You know, and honestly, I wasn't real happy with the way Fulton County developed some of the stuff we have out here as it is. And so therefore, when we formed the city of Milton, we promised a better way of doing things for the community when we became a city, and I think that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, and I commend you for that. So thank you all
sir.
for your time.
Chair, I'm not sure if
Do we have, I got to get public comment next. Sorry, guys. Anybody want to step up? Come on down. One at a time.
Thank you. I'm Jonathan Young. I live at 720 Hopewell Place Lane, which is catty-corner from this proposed development. And you've touched on a lot of the issues already, and I greatly appreciate that. One that I want to, since we have attorneys presenting the thing as opposed to the developers or designers, is there, as I understand it, there's a tree conservation ordinance that was adopted on April 23rd of this year, and it requires 57% of the acreage be preserved as trees. That's all trees right now. And so I'm hoping that whatever plans they want to come back with or propose, that they would honor the laws that are already in place regarding the preservation of trees and that green space. Also, our subdivision opens into the outlet from Vickery Crest. It's Hopewell Place Drive. And as near as I can tell, like 70% of the density that they were proposing was the only outlet was through Vickery Crest and out onto Hopewell Place Drive that would be exactly opposite ours. And we're already getting a lot of traffic from all the development that's going on up Hopewell. And the traffic's just getting denser and denser. And to have that kind of traffic then pour out right into our faces off of Hopewell Place Drive is another consideration as well. So
just bear in mind, though, that they...
Beg your pardon?
Just bear in mind, though, the seller of that particular piece of property has their own rights. And I understand traffic, and I complain, as Bob will attest, I complain about traffic on my road quite consistently. And I feel your pain. But it's going to be about more fundamental things than just the traffic. And I agree with the tree density, the tree issue, the tree ordinance. It doesn't mean they have to maintain 57% of the acreage for the trees, right?
No, currently they have an option right now to utilize the old ordinance or the new ordinance. So I'd have to see how they play out. They might end up being a condition from the council. requesting a certain amount of canopy, or it would probably just be addressed later?
So the applicant would be, in fact, he would have to uphold whatever the council decided in whatever our ordinances are today that are in that he will have to comply. So there's tree recompense, there's all kinds of things, but obviously the trees are important to us as a community.
Right. And I would add that what they show as a common space on the drawing is actually a retention pond. There's no trees there. So, great. Thank you very kindly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir, you need to fill out one of the yellow cards. Come on down. Anybody wants to stand up? Sure.
First of all, my name is Paula Corwin. I live at 165 Oakhurst Leaf in Brookshade. And excuse my attire, I came right from a little exercise. So, what I wanted to say is this is the third time that this homeowner has tried to change the AG1 to a much more dense subdivision, and we've, as a community, have come to these meetings with the same attorney every time, and we have shared our wishes. I don't think anybody is trying to get the homeowner to not have a right to develop that property. It's just the way that he wants to develop that property that we would like to have some input, because obviously, as you already pointed out, we live there for the reasons that you said we became a city for, to have a lot more space, and I just, if the homeowner that wants to sell this property would just drive through both of the neighboring communities, they would easily. It'd be very simple, and I don't feel like
I need
they
to
really
ask a
listen.
question. Bob, he wants to go to R3A, right?
Yes.
So what is the percentage of subdivisions close to it or attaches to it that are R3?
Can't look on the map. I do know to the north, I believe it's R2, and then to the south, it is a CUP.
Okay.
And then to the east, all those are AG1 lots.
Okay.
So, I mean,
you already know he's overstepping that particular boundary. So one of the problems that will ultimately come up is that I suspect that they will say, of course, that, was it R2, did you say is the highest density? That's close to it?
well, that's Alpharetta, isn't it? Or I believe that's Alpharetta. That's a whole nother city. That's why.
Can you answer the questions for me?
So the CUP Vickery Crest that has, even though it's not R3A, there are some 1 acre lots on the northern portion because at the time there wasn't gravity for the sewer.
Right.
But the remainder of the lots are typically around between 18 and 24,000 square feet in size for the entire area. And then more recently, further south, it was approved for R3A adjacent to Alpharetta. And then on the east side of Hopewell Road, probably about 4 or 5 years ago, Scott Reese came in and he did receive R3A, almost opposite, and that they would receive sewer as well. So, and then to the west is whatever.
So the conversation I'm looking to have is if it's approved close to it as an R3 from somebody who's already gotten it from us.
Right, and I would recommend, and I've talked to the applicant, that a good starting point would be to duplicate whatever is adjoining the lots. So for instance, on Brookshade, if they're 3/4 or 1 acre lots, then you need to provide those size lots along the north property line. I'm not saying all of them are 1 acre, some of them may be. On the west, those are a little bit smaller, so then you would match that as well to the south. And I would also concur with what was said by staff earlier about the 1 acre lots along Hopewell. That was a board policy that was started in Fulton County, and when we continued it, as Mr. Buscemi said, for the previous zoning that's fairly highly dense. So
So
that's
what-
as a,
So what we're saying here is that they could actually get the yield would be slightly higher than AG1 by,
well, I would say a lot more higher, but it
Okay.
would be consistent. A
But we could have a
starting
site
point
plan.
would be to try to be consistent with what's actually developed out there or what's
Okay.
been approved.
All right.
So I can't tell you what that exact density would be because they have the big lake there, so it kind of skews the density a bit.
Right.
And just to clarify, the variance, it says 25 to 0. That's the last 25-foot non-impervious. So I don't want you to think
Okay.
that they're asking for the entire buffer to be deleted. It's just that last 75. I'm not saying for it or against it. I'm just clarify that you understand that.
well, what I'm trying to do is find a direction to where we can actually have the citizens,
And I've encouraged the applicant to do that, and typically that is where people start from, but I understand their position to represent their client, and that's where, as the planner that works on these zonings, would recommend that they go toward, as well as the minimum house size. They did go, that's the minimum for the R3A, and typically what we would like to do is to look at the other typical built or required minimum house sizes, and I don't remember what it is for Vickery Crest exactly. They were done in pods, but they're substantially bigger than 1,500.
so what we would really need is have those bullet point details so that we could,
And I have that all. It's already in the previous zoning a staff report that I already outlined what everything was developed around it and
Good.
the minimum house size. So
Okay.
that's readily available to them.
Right.
So.
all right. Ma'am, I didn't mean to butt into
That's
you.
okay, but my point, I think, is that we have already sort of outlined all of the concerns in we were very specific, and I don't feel like they've ever really listened. So I just don't understand what he's talking about as far as moving the goalpost, because we've had these same concerns since day one, and they haven't changed at all. So anyway, thank you. I appreciate you listening.
And just so the board knows, in case you haven't formally met her, in the purple, that's Robin McDonald, our zoning manager, and she's handling the staff report and for the rezoning.
It's nice to meet you, Robin.
I've already turned my sheet in. Jeff Flutterman, 12922 Donegal Lane, Melton, Georgia.
Okay.
So I will not claim to be an expert on any of this, but I've purposely educated myself a lot over the last 2 years. I went to the CPAC meetings under Karen Thurman, sat through the club, all those meetings to educate, and I actually have answers to a lot of this stuff with the density and all that. One thing I'd like to point out, if I may use this. This is a little bit like you don't even know where to start because there's so many issues, but I'll just start with this. One thing they totally misstated is matching the surrounded areas, so I'll just take Vickery Crest. I live in Vickery Crest. All of these properties that border this applicants, they're all 1+ acre on septic. This is all sewer. So let's just talk about Vickery Crest for a minute, and so we can look. You have to look at each parcel of land differently. The one Robin's speaking to, which I'm well aware of, on the south side of Vickery Crest, that borders Alpharetta. Totally different land piece. That only has access off Hopewell Road. That does not connect through the neighborhood. So that's one issue. The other issue of the many, 59 of these houses of the 73 all have to go through, including construction, has to come through the neighborhood, which we have a pool, tennis, small kids, all that going on here with no other way in this plan for all that. That's years and years of construction traffic going through and this is the topography, if you guys would, this backs up to my house. It's very hilly. There's a stream back there, ravines. I can't even imagine. And I'm not a engineer, so I can't speak to that, but it's pretty obvious to somebody looking at it. As far as homes, I know you're the design review board, so let's try to keep to that. There is no builder, so it's very hard to address the actual homes because we don't know. But I'll just say, for instance, my home that butts up to this, I have a 4-car side entry garage, 6,100 square feet on 1+ acre. this isn't even close to, and you talk about landowner rights. What about all these landowners?
I don't disagree.
And that's the problem I have. I hear a lot of this landowner rights. We're talking about one landowner, and all these people are going to have depreciation because of one landowner that an attorney is trying to appease.
Right.
I mean, I could go on, but
Nobody up here is disagreeing with the citizen's position. The only comment that I was trying to get across was that nobody wins when it goes to court.
right, and I totally agree with that. But I also think this comment made by the attorney saying, well, we're working with the citizens. I mean, I'm not seeing that.
Well,
I'm seeing this is what we're going to do, and if not, we'll see in court. That's what I'm hearing.
The reality of it is I garnered that already, and so hence the reason why I said that nobody wins when they go to court. But it comes down to this. It's going to be somebody outside of our board. So the meeting that we have tonight is for us to, as a courtesy review. I mean, it's just something for us to look at. And the reality of it is they did not get a positive outcome to this. To me, in all candor, what they laid down on the piece of paper for us to go do at this point does not rise to the occasion based on the importance of the property. So I don't think there's enough there for us to even have a lot to say other than stick to the basic comment that AG1's our zoning, and that's it.
Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else?
The risk of being slightly repetitive, I'll hand in my yellow form.
Good.
And just submit my
There are people on the board that really like compliance.
Fantastic. My name is Paul Scheffel. I've been a resident of Brookshade for 6 years. My wife and I and my son, we moved from Woodstock primarily for the opportunity to have a larger home, larger lot sizes, streets that are wider, all of the amenities that we enjoy in Brookshade, quite frankly, are at risk in terms of its value to us as homeowners. We see our home appreciation doing quite well here in recent months and years. And quite frankly, we are, and I've talked to friends in my community, we do not see the value add. We are extremely taken back by the plan that's been provided by the applicant. We received it in the mail recently. It's absurd to us to think that this is something that's been put on paper and provided to us in the mail for consideration, given what's in our subdivision, Brookshade, what's to the south of the proposed development, east and west. I think, certainly you've outlined this. So for us, when we look at, I just was taking some notes from Zillow as I was waiting to come up here this evening. And in Vickery Crest, the homes that are selling there are $590,000 to $775,000 in recent months. In Brookshade, $610,000 to $787,000. Okay, so those are key points that we would want to have represented in what is brought to bear by this applicant. Home valuations need to be maintained or provided some value elevation, right? Come in and help us, because we're not forcing the applicant to sell, okay? And you know that. So the applicant is forcing everyone around that are existing homeowners. It's kind of like the airport scenario, right? Well, everybody moves in around an airport. Well, we're the existing homeowners, and we have a vested interest in what gets placed in and around us. So,
I don't disagree with anything you've said. The only point I want to try to make is the cost of the dirt is going to determine the price of the houses. Cost of that dirt is expensive, I'm sure. And just as we just made the comment about the 1,600 square feet, nobody in their right mind is going to put a 1,600 square foot house on a 1 acre lot in the city of Milton, because the economics will not work out. I still believe that that it comes down to the attorney side for the seller whoever that developer is going to be is them doing a good job on selling the public on what they're going to build and what the benefit to the public as a whole is. And so I think this is a long ways away from anything of what I would call a meaningful dialogue.
Understood. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Come on up, sir. Both of you can come. I don't care. I'm good. As long as you filled out your yellow form, we're good.
I filled out my yellow form in advance.
Good.
So my name is Rick Bach, 215 Oakhurst Leaf Drive in Brookshade, and this will be short and sweet. What was interesting this evening was when we were talking about the development of the Crabapple Marketplace, and a couple words, 3 words stuck out with me: look, style, and feel. This does not look, style, and feel like Milton. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Come on down. Having the youngest guy at the form, or we put it at the desk.
Peter Scalera, 205 Oakhurst Leaf.
All right.
Rick's neighbor. We live directly over here. We've owned our home for 15 years. Rick and Pam have owned their home closer to 20 years. The only comment that I want to make, and to be redundant, but I want to say it in a little bit different way, is we've got a meeting next Tuesday at the Bethany Center with this applicant. Their letter to us was to come and talk to us about this application within the guise of we're going to have an open discussion about it. But this is the second time we've been through this. And in none of those instances has this applicant come to the community and said, we want to sell it, we want to develop it, we want to make it a win-win for everybody, let's talk about it. To somebody else's comment, we got this in the mail the other day. Before it was 18 homes. I back up to that property. As my wife just said, now it's 4 times worse. So it's interesting to me that we have somebody up here talking about lawsuits and wanting to change things when what we really should be doing is talking about how does this become a win-win for everybody. I want to see my property value go up. I'm sure the Sioux want to see their property optimized. There's got to be an optimal way to do that. But sending letters and having meetings where there's plans that have no sense or logic to them and not involving the community is not the way to do it. Thank you.
Next.
I already filled my form out and turned it in.
Good.
And I'm short, so I'm standing aside.
That's fine.
My name is Sean Samuels. I'm at 12905 Donegal Lane in Vickery Crest. I am right over here, so just off the lot that is adjacent. What I would tell you is I really believe that this design was intended to create conflict to solely get towards litigation. I don't think this was somebody trying to propose something that they felt would be a real use of everybody's time to have a productive outcome. I really think it was, let's take the most inflammatory design, throw it into the process, we're going to get a no, and therefore we'll have grounds for litigation. So the partnership comments are from the applicant earlier are really inflammatory. There hasn't been a sense of community. Everybody who lives, whether it's Vickery Crest or Brookshade, understands this tract of land is going to be developed at some point. We just ask for there to be sensibility. I hear sensibility coming from the board, which, by the way, thank you for your volunteering time, because I know this is not a paid position, so thank you for volunteering.
We're not paid.
I know.
Darn it.
I know there's a lot of time. I know having to sit here and listen to something that seems to be repetitive, but you spent a lot of time listening to us. I thank you for your time. Good evening.
Just know this, my comments that I've made is it could, there's no way that I know what the seller's attorney's thinking or the seller's thinking. But the attorney I recognize that none of us win through lawsuits, and they have to come with a better open-ended plan to be able to come out. They've got a number. Their seller has a number in mind. You divide the lots by that number, and cost of development, and you figure out what the price range of the houses is going to be. And they're going to have to come up with something like, for example, I've repeated it time and time again,
Yeah.
that, this is just a piece of paper with a bunch of lots on it. And so it doesn't really ring true enough for me. Like, for example, what I did like about the Crabapple Exchange was that was a three-dimensional look. We got to see what the buildings are going to look like. And so guess what? We were told it conforms. I was good to go because it's a good-looking product.
But you also liked the way that it incorporated kind of the style and the feel of what everybody knows this community is going for.
Absolutely.
And there was a ton of thought and planning put into it, which is the exact opposite of this. I mean, I could have come up with this, and I have no background in building like you do.
Well, I can tell you they didn't invest that much money in that piece of paper.
But I think that was intentional. That's my personal opinion.
And it could be.
I'm not making any assertions. That's my personal opinion. But I do thank you all for your time tonight.
Thank you.
I just wanted to make a comment to what you said. I've been sitting here trying to figure that out myself. What did the end result in putting that up? What did you think you were going to get out of presenting something like that to these people that have seen this numerous times? It has to be something else. I ain't figured it out yet.
It was to get a no, in my opinion.
Okay.
In my opinion,
I've
it was
got
to get a
to
no.
figure out what.
So that they can say
because
they
that
were
doesn't
denied their rights as a
really-
property owner so that they would have grounds for litigation. That's my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
And that doesn't speak to partnership.
I can tell you that from my own personal experience that I've never won at litigation. And so I oppose litigation at all turn. However, when I knew I wanted X, I would present Y up front so I could negotiate to X. And so that could be the case. And that's why I'm saying instead of it being so adversarial, if there's any way possible for the citizens and this particular seller and representatives to come to the table with a clean slate and say, these are our concerns, this is what we would like, and we understand what you want to get as a yield, and when you don't give us something that's even close to anything that we think is going to be safe for us, we're going to press to just stay with AG1. Because AG1 will force the value.
Yeah. And it's not just the lots that are adjacent to that property that are septic. I'm on a little over an acre, and I'm septic. My neighbor is. I mean, I would say, gosh, at least a quarter of Vickery Crest is on septic. Maybe even more. I could be under on that number. But I will tell you this: when it comes to a negotiation, I agree. Sometimes you say X to get Y, but there is such thing as an offer that is so low that it stops the negotiation completely, and it's an end of the conversation.
I didn't say they were being smart about it.
I wasn't alluding to that.
No offense to the council back in the back, but it comes down to that we just got to work our way through the process. And,
understood.
And obviously everybody here is a volunteer. We have all the city staff, these three guys here. You got Robin here. Those people work 40-hour jobs, and yet they're here at 9 o'clock at night.
I know.
And I can tell you that I have served on 2 city positions in my lifetime in 2 different municipalities, and our staff here is some of the absolute best. And I believe that the city tries its very best to represent its citizens the best it can.
We look forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Come on down. You have to pick door number 2. Door number 1's already worn out.
I'm going to try not to be redundant. My name is Deb Lutterman. My husband has already spoken tonight. I live at 12922 Donegal Lane, which is this property right here. We are over an acre on septic. And when we moved up to Milton, that was our purpose. We moved here for a reason. Whatever was set in place and motion by the city of Milton, by the Fulton County before Milton. Things have changed, and now we have the city of Milton. That's why we moved here. We have 3 small children, We are a neighborhood of a neighborhood of children. The pool and tennis is across the street from our home.
Untouched the subject of the children and construction traffic and stuff?
I would.
I'm saying you can get the applicant to build a road that goes for all that traffic to go a different way.
Yeah, I think a big concern is the lack of construction entrance. I realize that probably building a bridge over the current bridge that would be able to accommodate the kind of traffic for this size neighborhood and all of the construction traffic would be expensive. So I just have a lot of thoughts rolling through my head. I'm emotional about this because of the fact that we are a neighborhood of small children, and I have small children, and the years of land development, construction vehicles, and the sheer volume of traffic generated by the 59 homes that would be only able to be accessed through our neighborhood currently. And then I can't speak eloquently to how I want to say this, but you talked about coming with a plan Y to get to Z or whatever, however that was.
You ask for more even though you want less.
They came with that a couple years ago with SR Homes, and to me, they've gone even a step backwards now. So I, myself, will not be attending the meeting that they are going to be having on the 9th because I am not seeing that they are coming to the community with open lines.
I would tell you to always go to the meetings, no matter how you feel, just so that you have information. And don't try to go with a preconceived notion that they're not going to come up with an open arm because you don't, I mean, you may be absolutely right, but you don't know till you do it. So I can tell you
the plan they've submitted is evidence of that.
For me, being somebody that's built a lot, I will tell you that is not evidence that that's the end plan. So I would tell you that what you need to do is keep an open mind, open heart, represent well, be polite, stay to your guns, and realize that just as much as all of us have rights for the houses we bought that we live in, and I'm no different than you, but so does that seller, has a right. Now, I don't know where these two intersect, and I'm not a legal expert, so therefore I can't say. But I can tell you that the only way you have resolution to anything, that it comes out that you got to keep an open mind, and you got to go in, and even as drudgery as it may be, you got to go to the meetings, and you got to keep that positive attitude as to the plan so that you can keep repeating your messaging. You may have to repeat your message forever. And the only single advice I got for you is in the other municipality which I worked in a lot, I built a lot in, the community came up against a particular road, and everybody fought the road. And the city had done everything they could do to build this road and make it a road that was a nice road. Everybody fought it. Everybody turned it down. The road didn't get built. Then all of a sudden, the state of Georgia and the federal government built the road, and their road was a very straight road with nothing redeeming about it whatsoever. So always go to your meetings, always keep an open mind, always try to find resolution. And I understand everybody's feelings. If I lived in your subdivision, and I don't live in your subdivision, and I still care, but if I lived in the subdivision, I would be just as vocal, but I would try to rally my troops to come into something that we can live with, that y'all can live with, versus just saying absolutely no to something. Everybody's going to say no to that.
Absolutely no to what's currently before us.
Absolutely no to that's fine. But what I'm trying to say is you can say no to this particular piece of paper, but don't say no to not listening to anything. Because ultimately, if you don't listen to anything, it does end up in court, and everybody will end up with something they don't want, including the seller, including all of our citizens.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. All right. Any more comment?
If we don't have any more, Mr. Chair, before we go on to the next item, can we just, can I have the board sum up their comments? First, I guess, about the design of the subdivision as it's proposed, and then any possible considerations if it were to be approved, so we can translate that to the staff report.
I think first we would ask that the applicant set up stakeholder meetings that include staff with the citizens. That would be number one. Number two, I think we need to get on paper bullet points as to what the citizens are looking for in theirs. I think that we need to revisit Robin's hard work that she had on all the properties that attach to it and what the lot sizes are and whatnot. And I don't see anything viable about this particular site plan. Construction traffic, Bob, do you think it's true that there's no way to get a different entrance into the subdivision based on the lake and whatnot?
I'd have to really sit down and study it. I mean, at this point, I don't see anything that's viable, but.
Right, so the point I'm trying to come to is that we've got to get down to bullet points of what everybody wants and what everybody's opposing.
Yes.
And we got to find a way that the citizens can buy. You know,
Site access would be one of your considerations.
Pardon me?
Site access would be a
Yes.
consideration.
Can, as a caveat to the recommendation for them to have an additional meeting with the community, can we also make recommendations on what we want them to provide at that meeting? Because it's a waste of these people's time if they show up to yet another meeting and that board is there. So the recommendation I would make is, for that meeting, what I like to see are color renderings. I like to see a proposed traffic layout, doesn't have to be the plan. And I'd like to see maybe a rendering or something of what they anticipate the home to look like. It's beating your head against the wall for them to keep showing back up, and it's the same thing. So I would like to make their recommendation. Yeah, let's have the meeting, but I want them to show up with a lot more meat to this design.
But, you know what? To that end, one of the things that might be helpful, Bob and Angela and Cody and Robin, is for us to have as a staff to this community, have a meeting with them so that we can get down to the bullet points individually for them, and then meet with the applicant, present those bullet points, and see what their answers are. Whenever I built my subdivisions, I was required to have these stakeholder meetings, and I was asked every single time, how do I plan to deal with this objection? How do we do this? And so it was put not necessarily on the city, but on my staff and me to come up with some resolutions. And I think that would be good for the applicant to see in writing in very simplistic bullet point positions. And then before they actually meet, I mean, as a group, I think we got to get a little bit closer together to find out, get it down to black and white so that it's not emotional.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
Okay. I'll agree to that.
Okay.
But my heels are dug in. My heels are a little dug in.
So you want to get the concerns from have the neighbors give staff their concerns, and then have staff sit down with the
Yes.
applicant.
For those that are back there that are the neighbors, does that sound amenable to you guys?
Yes.
Okay, good. So we get the bullet points. Let's get it down to black and white so we can figure this out and try to move forward. And then once we get that, maybe staff can meet with the applicant and go over these bullet points that we've got and see what their position may be and what we can do to help them come to some resolution. And then once we get them a little bit closer together, maybe we can have a stakeholders meeting that includes the applicant and the community. What do you think, Reed?
I think it's pretty good.
Okay. All right. Mr. Applicant Attorney, that I don't remember your name, and I forgive me, does that sound like it might be All right, good deal. All right. With that being said, can we leave the topic of this particular subdivision? Good job. Thank you. Next, silos at Broadwell, 12455 Broadwell Road. Thank you, gentlemen.
Good evening. Hi. Nice to see you again, board. Eric Richards. I dwell at 606 Devonbrook Drive, Woodstock, Georgia. I am the owner of CrossFit Silos and the managing member of Friends of Silos, which owns this property.
You can pull that mic up.
Something like that? That should work. So we've got two things we're doing. First, the courtesy review of some architecture that we came up with for this plan. And then it looks like I am the final review after that as well. We were here at the end of last year. We had some discussions with our neighbors, AKA my future members.
Okay.
Worked with the city and came to resolution. But we'll talk about that next, I guess. We want to go ahead and just look at the architecture and the courtesy review of that. So I'll see if I can pull this up.
Are you trying to put in a thumb drive?
Yeah, I put a drive in. Oh, you have to turn it on for me? Hey. Thanks. We'll start with this this Broadwell retail building, which you'll be able to identify. I think we probably stapled your packets with the floor plans on the front. I apologize for that. So the site plan, actually, why don't I go ahead and I'll show you that too. Just to get to, yeah, I guess that works there. Maybe we look at this one here. Pretty plain. So in the site plan, we see that there are two buildings that have been proposed for this this parcel. Building 1 is the one that faces the street. That is also known as our retail building. And then building 2, which is set back, is the building that will house the CrossFit gym.
I'm sorry, can I just interrupt? I don't believe this is the site plan that you're going to be presenting. Because it doesn't have the parking.
Oh, yeah, no, you're right. Yeah,
I just want to make sure the board is seeing the correct.
Yeah, you're right. Well, I've got printings of the right one here, yeah.
Yeah,
So
I thought you had it up a moment ago, so we can look at it. But
yeah, we'll get, once we pull those up.
It's the one that you're presenting tonight, so I just want to make sure.
So nonetheless, this building here that I've got up on the screen, I'm not sure if you're looking at that screen as well. This is the building that will be it's a 2-story building with a retail first floor. Second floor is proposed as some condos, some residential condos. This is a view of it from the rear, or from the front, excuse me, with a little bit of the side as well, and a rear view here. And so we just wanted to get this courtesy review in as we are trying to move from this design phase to moving forward with some architecture.
I just want to make some clarifications before the applicant goes further. So the site plan is proposing retail for this building, retail on the ground floor, and 3 residential units above. And that's, the plan shows some office space.
Is that a requirement to have residential above it?
It's vertically integrated, yeah, and we want mixed use. So he's got 3 residential units above. He's got 3 garages down in the basement, so that
Are these rentable?
They could be either or.
Pardon me?
They could be either or.
Okay.
And then on some of the drawings, he's not, when you just see a lot of brick, it's just his graphic, but the topography actually will be sloping at that point. So the building is like set on a hill.
It's one of the garages are to the left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there is no drive under potential on that right. So, yeah, even though you see what looks like brick, as Robert's saying, it's actually dirt.
Yeah, that would actually slope up, so it's forming to the topography of the existing land.
So is that going to be a stone wall, or is you going to do just concrete
The
on the basement level? I understand it's dirt going down, but
No,
just
the,
trying-
all the form-based code is going to require all brick or stone.
Yeah.
You can't have any stucco or exposed concrete.
Well, I just can't see it on
Yeah, I'm sorry.
this.
Yeah, brick was what we're thinking.
Did we?
Marty, real quick, can I ask you a question? Because you were asking a question about if it's required that we put residential above. Was that out of fear over our inability to possibly sell a condo in this area? Because, of course, that would be a fear of mine.
I would tell you that.
I've paid attention to, Mr. Stoltz's project, so I do know that it's not the most popular thing.
I can tell you that it's not fair for me to make comment. I have my own reservations, as Bob will tell you. I think that I think lots of things that are incorrect. So what I really want to know was it an absolute? Because really what I see is that based on, Bob, is there any room for them, should they not be able to sell these as condos or rent them as condos, can they convert them to office space?
They would have to come back and demonstrate that they're meeting the density requirements. Right now, the 3 units is three. That's 3 units in their overall scheme. So they'd have to come back and demonstrate that all meets the density and one. It'd be a new application that they'd have to come in. We'd have to go through the whole vigorous.
I'm going to worst case scenario here. The worst case scenario is, let's say he builds a building and he can't rent them or sell those condos. Would he then have an option in some way for him to convert those to offices versus condos?
Again, Mr. Chair, he'd have to come back and demonstrate that he has ample parking and density and all the other rules that would apply. And the way he builds them, when he goes to build them, you can build them with a residential style building code, or if he wants to go to a commercial application in the future, then he'd have to build it to meet all the commercial.
Sure.
You'd have to have elevators to get people up and down. You'd have to have egress.
We're planning an elevator for that reason.
Okay.
So you'd have to have, all of these other building components. It's a lot of people end up don't converting very quickly because they have to update everything and meet all the.
Yeah, where I was going with this thought process, remember we looked at Deerfield Green or whatever it would be, and one of the comments I made was that on the second floor, they supposed to be residential, but we didn't have enough residential requirement for that particular part. And what I had asked for was them to be metered for gas, water, and electric independently each other, so that if the choice had to be made to redevelop that section, they would have that ability to do it, which would be the same comment I'd have to you.
Yeah.
So no shared water, no shared gas, no shared.
Yeah, I'd have to go back, honestly, I wouldn't know off the top of my head, I wouldn't want to shoot an answer off. I'd have to check the whole code again to see.
So I'm not
if the
trying- I'm
office
just
is
trying to
even
cover it.
allowed. Is it
Yeah,
used,
at
and
some
how
point
much?
in the conversation, we
I
felt like.
don't want to give you any impression. that
Yeah, no, I get
we
it.
can do office, right now it's being proposed as residential, and that's what we've checked.
Yeah.
Everything else is sort of hypothetical until I go back and recheck it.
I'm sorry I brought it up.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. It's a good conversation to have. So then, the building in the back there is the CrossFit building, which will have a yoga studio and an area for a kids' fitness classes as well. The first image that I have up now, which I don't think you have in your packet, that same view, but that's you can see the front door, which would be facing towards Broadwell Road. Designed to look, our inspiration was the library. We kind of looked at Brayburn, the library, and thought, hey, we want to try to match this in some style. It's a metal roof, that's the idea here. Both of these buildings would be metal roofs. And then same thing here when we look from the side, we tried to kind of demonstrate that it's a sloping grade with this blocked out image, but it doesn't do it justice that way. But it slopes downhill to the rear of the building, which is to the right of this image that I have up. And that's just a straight front view there. I know your packet has additional views.
So your band around the windows, it's hard for me to discern what the size of that material is that goes around that window, the windows.
Yeah, the window's a Marvin window, which I'm not sure about what you're saying, the band around it. Yeah, I kind of see.
Usually they put a Hardy board.
Hardy plank 6-inch.
Yeah.
6-inch around the window. That's usually what I require on it.
So it gives a little bit better three-dimensional view, and just like I made the comment on the complex, lintels at the top would look pretty nice.
Yep.
I would like for, it's hard for us, or hard for me, and Tim may have a better time at it, but when you see them just in a black and white, sometimes it gets really difficult to see the dimensional portion of it.
Yeah. Yeah, of course, when we would come back for final on this, we'd bring you some colored renderings.
All right.
Yeah, we're looking at the scale and mass at this point, the position and placement and number of windows, the door openings. When the applicant first came in with this, we asked them to make this particular building lower in scale so it wouldn't overpower the adjoining property owners and things. So I think he's complied today. He's got a partial basement and really a one-story with a roof. So we try to make it, the tower portion of the building is on the front, way away from all the residential.
Okay.
Kept the metal roof, board and batt siding, kept a lot of awnings and coverings, exposed raft details. The pitch of the roofs are correct to the code. So the windows are deeper and narrower, and they're all independent. If they are like a double window, they put a post in between them. So I think he's complied with most of it from a form and massing criteria. But I wanted to make sure that before we get into the details, that again, we bring it in front, because we're going to be looking at the site plan for final approval tonight. And I don't like to have any final approval without you seeing what the buildings potentially are evolving to. Right? So that we can look at this holistically and know that when you approve a site plan, we sort of know what the intent is for the building.
To me, they look good.
It looks good.
Yeah, good. No issues. Do you want to move on to the final?
Site plan?
Let's go on to the next one.
All right. Still Eric Richards, still from Woodstock.
Do you want something?
Did the board have any other comments? I mean, are we going in the right direction?
Yes. I mean, the thing we'll be looking for is a little bit better dimensional view.
Yeah, I'd like to see
Yeah,
this
he'll
site
bring
plan, how this all
that.
kind
We didn't
of
wanna get
plays
too-
out together.
We
It's
didn't
hard
want
to
it
tell.
to get too far. You hated it, so.
Yeah, like the one that's facing Broadwell, if you notice what we did was we tried to break up the architecture so it would look like it's three independent buildings rather than one.
Yeah, I like that.
Try to break up the roof lines, the dormers, the gable ends. We really tried to facilitate it so it doesn't look like a long building. It looks like three buildings put
But
together.
even with the roof line like that, I mean, even with the top of
Yeah, I
the
left the
roof.
roof line straight, but the fascia, I broke up all the fascia along the street.
Bob, what was yours and Eric's ideas on the bracing for the windows and stuff? Are you going to do that like we did like these right here? Or?
I think it's going to look like the rest of the buildings that are on Broadwell. They have
Okay.
the brackets and they paint them.
All right, cool.
Yep.
To kind of keep it looking just
Exactly.
like the ones across
Keep
the
it
street.
going the same. Yep,
Keep it
absolutely.
looking the same.
So, all right, so our final site plan, we were here before, we worked this agreement out with the city, with Westminster subdivision, which was actually considered the Milton and Alpharetta Families Enforcing Fair Zoning Incorporated was their group. A couple representatives here behind me still. We worked this out so that we had a certain set of criteria to make everyone happy. And this was what Bob, Robert, I think you drew this picture. I think that I have here on this. Was that you that came up with that? Yeah. And so the only thing that's different really in this drawing and what we've actually submit is that we don't have the parking that would have cars pulling in and facing Westminster. We don't have that. We were able to satisfy the total parking need without having those parking spots. So there is no parking along that southern edge pulling in facing that neighborhood. So that's really the only difference in what we came up with for the site plan. Oops.
So in essence, what the applicant has done is, the agreement was a 40-foot landscape area, and now that we've grabbed the other 18 to 20 feet of, including curb, where the parking was shown before, we're now having that in addition. Now, we're not requiring it contractually to landscape it, one that might just be grass, but it's still a sort of a landscape setback, and there are no cars now facing any of the adjoining property owners, which I thought was nice.
Mailbox is going to be there?
There'll be a little mailbox kiosk thing just to have drop off.
This is a perfect example of what I was trying to say to the previous.
Yeah, they should have stayed.
No.
Was that you got to try to just work together and come up with a plan. So
well, and I'll commend the efforts of Robert and the city, in relieving us from some of the requirements that we would normally have in this to be able to slide the building all the way over and create this landscape buffer. There was just no way to do it. We couldn't get it this big, but by sliding that building over and not having the requirement of a road, penetrating the full depth of this property, it made it all work out. So the numbers could work out, so we could do it, as well as we could put the landscaping in. So
right.
Yeah, it was good.
All right, Bobby, any other questions? Any board got any questions?
I don't. But this is in front of you for final, so we can, once we get it, we can get it through.
Got any comments from the city or citizens? Come on down.
Good evening. Hi, Cody. Nice to meet you finally.
Yes, nice to finally meet
In
you.
person. My name is Roger Bauer. I live at 2020 Knightsbridge Way. I'm at the southern border of I'm not going to call it proposed property anymore. I'll call it the property that will be built. I think we've come a long way. And it was sort of chuckling from where we were last May and kind of sort of feelings, empathizing with some of the folks that were in the room sort of at the beginning of their journey into where we've come collectively. And I think we've both given and we've both, I think, come to something that I've said, publicly is fair. My ask for the committee tonight is to support this request, subject to a couple of conditions. The first one I'll mention, my neighbor is going to go into a little bit more detail, but there's part of the deal is that there's a lot of trees that have to be removed, and there's going to be a lot planted in shrubs, and we're very excited about the landscaping plan. But we want to make sure that the mature trees that we do have on the southern border, that we have had an independent arborist assess in terms of their current state, we want to ensure that there's adequate tree care plans developed by the city arborist and the developer to make sure our boundary trees stay alive and give us that protection until the trees that are being planted will become more mature. And secondly, and it's very timely, your question, Marty, about the whole how is the second floor of the first building going to be developed, because that was actually one of my requests, is to ensure that the site plan is conditioned to make certain that there's a minimum of 3 residential units on the within building 1. I think there were some questions here, and I think I have pretty strong observed arguments for why they should be conditioned. The first is in the secondary packet that was accompanied, that was on the calendar on the website, the architectural renderings. I know we didn't go through every one of them, but the current architectural renderings, and I know it was a courtesy review, but there was only 1 residence shown on the second floor of the first building, and not 3, and there was only 1 balcony shown on the second floor instead of 3. Further supporting just the reason I'm bringing the issue up is on the Milton Point website, which is the website now that's being used for marketing. it's marketed as, 3 residential on one side of the webpage, but on the other side of the webpage, it says there are up to 13,000 square feet available for retail, 6,500 ground floor and office. So I'm just saying from the website, it's marketed as, kind of either or, however I can sort of fill the needs of the market. And then finally, there's been public comments Eric has made on his Facebook video referencing the building update as of 5/22, where he said in his address to his Facebook or his Crossroads Silos customers that he visions this as a commercial with potentially 3 residential units, top keyword potential, and then also a quote 6,500 square feet on the first floor and 6,500 square feet potentially office or condos. So I think, to me, that creates an ambiguity in terms of how that second floor is going to be used. And I'm not trying to be legal. I believe we settled this, but I do have to raise the concerns in order to preserve them. I believe that our settlement agreement is set in such that building 1, if it were not 3 residential units, it would break the obligation of dealing in good faith inherent in that settlement agreement. Specifically to Exhibit A of that settlement agreement, it clearly shows 3 sets of private driveways for residential use, and any one and building it with 1 residential unit would not be in substantial conformance to it. Our deal involved withdrawing our fairly strong secondary variance application in exchange for concessions made to the site plan submitted at the time of the appeal. The formal site plan didn't exist because it required material engineering changes, so a hand-drawing illustration was developed to illustrate the changes from the site plan that was in existence at the time. That's the first argument for why I think it has to be 3. The second is that building 1 residential unit would break the current T4 definition based on a token residential unit that fails to achieve the goal of mixing uses and fails to pass a reasonable de minimis amount standard. And then finally, the recent City of Milton change in their ordinance related to T4, changing the definition away from the criteria of air quotes primary residential to mixed is in our view, a de facto rezoning of the parcel. And since there weren't any other T4 parcels in Crabapple affected besides the 12455 Broadwell Road property, and since the law appears to have been changed with this applicant in mind, changing the definition of T4 zone to permit a more intense use constitutes a de facto rezoning of that single parcel, which would trigger the City of Milton notification requirements that it did not wholly follow pursuant to Section 2082 of the Milton Municipal Code. So I'll say to the extent that at least 3 residences are not built, all arguments resolved by the settlement agreement are resurrected back to the time of its enactment. But with all of that being said, we want to live by the settlement agreement. We're not looking to relitigate this. But if we are sliding back down the scale of maybe 3, 2, maybe 1, then this would be our end result. So,
I just wanted to be clear about this.
Yeah.
My position was not so much that this group even intimated that they would not build the 3.
Yeah.
Nor did I think that they would. That's not where I was going with this. Where I went with it was, I happen to know of some buildings that we were not able to lease, and they ultimately leased as commercial office space, and we were restricted by the city not to be able to do that. And ultimately, in 2008, the city of Marietta had to acquiesce because we had sat there with these buildings vacant for 3.5 years.
Our position is that we would have an argument with the breach of the settlement agreement. The settlement agreement goes above and beyond the bare minimum that the City of Milton requires, and that would be our position. And I just wanted to be clear that that's where we stand. I
understand. What I'm trying to tell you is that nobody's asked for that. So
what I'm trying to tell the board and is that when I've looked at the materials and they have one residential unit instead of 3, and when I've heard other comments about, hey, I don't like the way the Broadwell houses, the market is, maybe there's a more viable use for for office, and that is how it is currently written onto that floor of the architectural rendering. I just want to be sure where I'm elucidating my concerns in order to preserve them.
I regret making the statement.
Honestly, this was written. Had you made the statement or not, I would have had the same comments, Marty. So you don't feel like you opened up a can of worms, because that was my only thing I wanted to say tonight. I'm fully supportive of it. My understanding is that it's 3 residential units. That's what is currently being proposed in the site plan. I just want to make sure that we're all adhering to the terms of the settlement agreement. And if that's the case, go forth. I have no issues.
If he's giving the thumbs up, everybody's giving thumbs up. Nobody's asked me for anything different. I'm sorry I brought it up, but
yeah, we're just making sure, because I think in the past. I'm sorry, Bob.
I'm not sure the board can actually condition a use that's not being proposed. I mean, we can't say, oh, you can't do anything in the future with this property. We can only approve what's being proposed.
Right.
That's why I made the clarification on what the courtesy submittal was, that it's 3 residential only, to make sure, but that will come back in front of you again.
So for
you'll
me,
see
it was
that.
just
So
about that I've been down this path before.
Because of density, parking, there's so many issues.
Right.
And zoning and what's allowed, is an office even allowed? I mean, there's a lot of issues that I have not looked into because they're not proposing that.
Right.
So I don't look into hypotheticals, but we're only approving tonight.
Right, I know.
What's on that site plan, which is 3 residential
Just take me out back and shoot me.
Thank you.
I'm not so sure that they can get the other ones in, even if they wanted to. And I'm sure it would raise other issues with whatever, they believe their settlement agreement is.
Okay, come on down, young man.
Young man? I like that. My name's John Bowles, and I live at 2010 Knightsbridge Way. I'm along the southern border of the 12455 Broadwell. My wife Jody and I are extremely excited about the improvements being planned for the property at 12455 Broadwell Road. The appearance of the property has definitely deteriorated over the last few years, and we look forward to a newer and more attractive development. We want to be cooperative with the developers and to help them in any way we can. We want to help them in any way we can, and we want to be good neighbors to the new occupants. Several months ago, we entered into a joint agreement that was not just with us and the builder, but also with the city of Milton. So it's a 3-party agreement. My wife and I plan on living up to every single piece of that agreement. And we expect the developer and the city to do the same. The agreement calls for now we'll start having fun. The agreement calls for a fence to be put on the new property by the developers. There's currently a 22-year-old fence on my property line that is in poor condition. Okay, I'm being kind to myself. It looks like death eating a cracker. It looks awful. It's in terrible condition. It needs to be taken down. I think it would probably be easier for the to take it down before the new fence is put up. And if it's easier for you to take that fence down, if you'll save me a dozen boards to use to repair the fence where it doesn't sit there, we can work that out, and I'll applaud you as you take that fence down. It would just make it easier on everyone, I think, and we're willing to do that. The major area of concern I have is with the Leland cypresses that border the southern border of the property, or the northern border of my property. I recently had an independent arborist confirm they're all in good to very good condition. These trees provide me with a high level of visual protection, that's privacy, as well as noise control, and I'd like for the city and the developer to have a tree care plan in place to protect the root structure from damage during demolition and construction. I already have an appointment, Melissa Brennan, and let me say the staff has been very cooperative in working with us, and Corey, you've been a big part of that too. We're going to look at that tomorrow just to see what needs to be done to protect those trees. They are mature and they're valuable, and I'm not asking the builder to be restricted or to have any expense. I'm just asking him to be careful as he's going through the demolition and not so much construction because that's so far away from where my trees are, but possibly during grading as well as demolition. I don't think we're going to have a problem there at all. I don't see it at all. I also have a dead tree that needs to be removed on that fence line. If the builder's going to be removing a bunch of trees,
Why not? Go
we
ahead and
need
knock
to
that
talk.
out.
I'm willing to cough up a couple of hundred to have that tree removed. We might both be able to benefit from doing that. Maybe I'm overly concerned, but we have an agreement that there will be 3 residential places in that first building. And does everyone here understand that we have an agreement for that?
No, I understand it, and I regret ever saying anything about it.
I'm glad you did.
No. But it's a legitimate concern as a builder.
And it's a legitimate concern for us who've entered into an agreement to have more residences over there close to the businesses that are going to be there. That's all I've got, except to repeat my first sentence. We are extremely excited about the improvements. So thank you.
Thank you so very much. All right, Eric, the negotiation is don't kill us Lelands.
Right.
Yeah,
Cut the tree down. Take the fence down.
Yeah, so obviously we want to keep as much of the screening as we possibly can because our whole point of putting in this, $90,000 tree budget is to have screening.
Forget everything I said about resident.
Yeah, exactly. Well, no, actually it's kind of good because I think we've probably opened up the door for Reed to sell my first condo to the owners of Westminster as their Airbnb. Right. Bam. There you go. That's all.
Oh my God.
Whatever you guys want to use it for. Once you buy it, it's yours. So, yeah, and then, of course, fence. Yeah, we got the fence. So,
okay.
So we won't be able to call it Amsterdam Alley.
Yeah.
So, all right. So you've done a good job, Eric, at involving the community, and I applaud you for doing it. So this is what happens when people sit down and talk to each other reasonably. So, that being said, you got anything else that we need to attest to? Any more trees?
No, I don't think so.
All right, good. Then I'm going to move on to the next thing.
We have to take a vote.
Oh, we got to take a vote on this?
This one gets
This
a
is a
motion.
final, so we need a motion and a vote for the site plan.
Who wants to do the honors?
I move to approve the site plan at 12455 Broadwell Road.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Go in peace, Eric. Nice to see you
very
guys.
much.
Thank you, gentlemen. Do we have any new business?
Yeah. Heard they were coming.
I'm not going to stay around for the new business.
Do we have any new business?
Now we have old business.
I have no new.
Old business?
Old business.
There's no old business tonight.
Stayed around though.
The way it's
It's
going
15:10.
Thank you for waiting.
I picked the wrong meeting to come to, I guess. I'm Gary Gilbert. I own a shopping center on 13695 Highway 9 Legacy Crossing. Last time I was here, the request was to have Bob come up with Angela to look at the place and make suggestions on the paint colors.
Did they do that?
Yes, and I believe Bob now will respond to that.
I went out there with Angela. We did a pretty comprehensive review of all the buildings, and my recommendation would be to leave it the way it is and not paint it at all. Because the condition of the buildings are so bad, and trying to secure any color on those buildings will just really boast a lot of attention, and I just think the buildings are there. They've been there for a long time, and they're fine. The community's fine with them. They look good. Nobody's complaining about them. But the minute we go and start
I wanted to paint them
putting
NASCAR
some
colors.
painting on it, you're going to lose. It's going to make it look more stucco-like. You're going to lose the block that's there, the colors that are there, and all the patina that's been there for 20 years. So you're going to start to dress it up. Now, the applicant's unwilling to do any other improvements to the building other than paint. And quite frankly, it's my recommendation to the board, since you asked me to go and look at it, to leave it alone. Because
So are you
if there
okay
were
with
other
that?
improvements,
Not really. I
would
wouldn't have
agree with
spent this many hours here tonight and come back for the second time. I respectfully disagree. Everybody has an opinion. I think it's a 50-50 thing. I have so many people that just love the shopping center look, and then I have so many people that just hate it. His comment was, it looked awful. That was what he said before he went on to say the condition of it's fine.
So have you changed your mind now that it doesn't look awful
You know,
now?
so what I've tried to do is to beautify it, and in my opinion, just my opinion, and the people that I've spoken to, and the architect that built it, and the group of people that have frequented it, they've all agreed. The tenants have agreed. They all want it painted. You're having a police department, you're having a fire department that is basically directly across. So as you come over that hill, which will be taken down by the state, you're going to come across this. As far as if I'm not allowed to paint it, obviously I won't. But when he says I'm not doing anything to the
maintain.
buildings, I am spending a couple $100,000 on the new roofs, the new air conditioning, the things that tenants want. And the tenants want it painted. So the next thing that I propose is to have each and every tenant come up here and explain to them how they feel. They're not going anywhere, so it doesn't really make a difference in the sense that if I don't get it painted, then they're going to leave. That's not
So
the
Bob,
case.
if they leave the same color it is, he can paint it if he wants to, can he?
It's not
Right
painted.
now, it's exposed concrete block. It's gray, there's red stripes.
Is it that
there's different
textured block?
colors.
Yes, it is. Crack
It
block.
it is a split.
Well,
it's a
I call
split
it
block.
crack block. In other
It's a
words,
split face block. It's not
Okay.
split rib, but it's split faced. And it's got a patina on it. It's aged for 20 years, and it's kind of the mortar and the block are all kind of weathered. And the minute we go and alter that by trying to power wash it and paint it all one color, it's going to make it look more stucco-like. And it's going to give it a uniform look, and it's going to have, whether it's a
I think the
shiny
bigger
adult
problem is
paint,
going to be is just trying to keep
And-
paint on it.
and trying to keep
Is what,
paint on
sir?
20-year-old block.
Trying to keep the paint on the block.
Yeah.
You know,
well,
so
they
part
were,
of what this board does is looks at longevity and life cycle and the future maintenance.
If there's
and the
no paint
future
on
look.
that block now,
Yes.
I was under the impression that it was painted already.
no, if there was painted, then you could paint again. Maybe,
Right.
you know, if
You've
if
answered.
Fulton County was allowed to me to paint it, well, if I had painted it the first time, then by what Bob has said, I could paint it again without really coming before you.
Right.
But it's not painted, so I cannot do that without your approval.
Honestly, if I were you, I would leave that building alone. I wouldn't paint it,
You
only
know,
because
that's, I'm here, and I will have to abide by whatever the decisions are. My opinion is that it needs to be painted.
it's got the steel structure on the
Yes.
outside of it, I
They
think.
don't want to do any enhancement to any of the exterior trim. It's all, I can show you, I took photos of it. I
But
mean,
it's that,
really
it's
good.
just red steel, isn't it?
No, it's gray. It's gray.
It's great.
So there's nothing on the building that's painted whatsoever?
The steel is painted.
Steel's painted.
Just the steel.
And there's some
Galvanized.
cedar beams under the awning, under the galvanized.
Yeah, that's how
All
the
the
awning is
cedar
being held
beams
up.
are in weathered shape, they're all splitting and cracking. There's no, the applicant does not in any way want to do any improvement to the
Is
building.
that cedar that sliced cedar where it's not like it's,
It's rough cedar. I mean, it's not.
yeah, but it's the slice where it's thick on one end and skinny on the other, right?
No,
It's not.
no, it's not. It's the cedar is actually just is holding up the facade that hangs over the doorways.
We have, let me just show you.
Yeah, sure,
We have metal
absolutely.
panel, and then we have block, and then if you're looking at, there's wood underneath here. If you zoom in, you'll just see it's, like the condition of the wood is all rotting and falling down, and the coping is just.
What wood is rotted and
So
falling down?
There's really no trim or anything on there that you can identify. I looked at it. I said, if he's just going to go and paint it, all the other elements are even going to look worse because they're not up to standard. The metal paneling and everything else. Everything is going to look. You can zoom in. Right?
No,
Is there any landscaping or anything you can do instead, just to give it a fresh kind of update face?
Well, the front of the building, the 80% of the landscape is going to be taken by the state of Georgia with the DOT. So I'm going to actually be less. I'm going to have no landscaping. And there will not be all the landscaping, the trees, the bushes. It's heavily landscaped on the first 15 feet of the property. DOT's taken that. Well, they've staked it. So I'm assuming they're going to take it. So no, there's really nothing, because it's really strictly buildings now after the fact that they take that. You're just going to be looking at the buildings once they do that.
And honestly, it's hard to go against what the city architect's already gone and looked at. So.
I can completely understand.
So-
I follow the rules.
Follow the rules. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful night.
Sorry I had to wait so long.
I just couldn't believe everybody wouldn't, when you went through that whole process that you said to this developer, you don't approve it, and then everyone wanted to say their questions to you. They're the same thing that you weren't going to do it anyway. That's the only.
I feel your pain.
I feel your pain.
All right. Any new business? I know what I'm supposed to ask first.
I have none.
Any old business?
No more.
Nope, that was it.
No monkey business. We're done.